Hello, everybody. Hello, it is I, Trooper SJP, and this is the Academic Foxhole, and my door to my office is open, so I do not absolutely bake in here, so it may be a little echoey, but hi, how you doing? Hi, hello, hi, how are you doing? Oh my gosh! Oh, I remember I want to take chat and put it in a slightly different place. I always forget that sometimes. Hold on. I'm just moving this over here so that I can see it. I don't have to turn my head as much and you can just hang out. Hi, long time no see, everyone. How are you? Actually, I think you're right. I think that was what I forgot already, because there's something I'm forgetting. And I think, because I pop out the chat so it's closer to here and not there. Because if I didn't pop it out, it would be here. And that is a move. But right now it's just here. So I can just, do that. Hello. All right, I have things. Throw it a scroll or two. Okay, time of gifts, everybody. So I was away for my board game week. Oh, speaking of which, I need to do that thing. Let me write it down, or I'll forget.
Name game.
The name game. Come on, everybody. I said, now let's play a game. I bet you I can make a rhyme out of anybody's name. The first letter of the name. I treat it like it wasn't there. And then a B or an F. Or an M will appear. And then I say boo at a B, then I say the name, then banana, fanner, and phone. Then I say the name again with an F, very plain. Then a fee, fi, and a mo. Then I say the name again with an M this time, and there isn't any name that I can't rhyme. Ooh, thank you, time of gifts. Classical glazer, classical glazer, bo blastical glazer, banana feta for classical glazer, fee fi mo classical glazer, classical glazer. But if the first two letters are ever the same, I drop them both and say the name. I like Bob. Bob drop the B's, Bo, Ob, or Fred. Fred drop the F's, Fo, Red, or Mary. Mary drop the M's, Mo, Airy. That's the only rule that is contrary. Muse in a bottle. Muse in a bottle, bo, booze in a bottle, banana, fenfo, fuse in a bottle, fee, fi, mo, ooze in a bottle. Muse in a bottle. A wild star, boba, wild star, banana, fenfo, wild star, fee, fi, mo, wild star. A wild star. Cake hugger, bo, bake hugger, banana, fenfo, fake hugger, fee, fi, mo, make hugger. Cake hugger. Dumbeck, bo, bombeck, banana, fana, for fumbeck, fee, fi, mo, mombeck. Dombeck. Valtiel, bo, Baltiel, banana, fana, for Faltiel, fee, fi, mo, Maltiel. Valtiel. The name game. Oot. Thank you for those gift subs, time of gifts, and also thank you for that resub, Valtio. Oop. Name game train. Okay. Dombeck. Squirrels. Hi, Mooseach, wie geht's? Booze in a bottle? Yes, usually. If I could put booze in a bottle, I'd something and something. That's by Jim Croce, right? Hey. Volus dude. Hi. Booze in a bottle? Yes, usually. Hi, hello everybody. I was gonna write something down so I didn't forget it, but then I forgot it. That's just how life is, I think. But okay, so I'm gonna tell you a couple things. First off, we're gonna do two. Oh, Krellin, that's good. If I could put booze in a bottle, I'd own a distillery. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to do video game giveaways today. I'm going to do 2 probably, maybe 3, but I think 2 because we haven't done it in a while and I know things are going to expire. Board game week? Yes, thank you. Board Game Week. And I'm going to write it down here. What does this say? This says toiletries, electronics, games folder printout, something to read, book. Those are the things I need to pack when I went to Board Game Week. And pen. Okay, I'm ready. So we're going to do giveaways, just not right now, halfway through. Krellin, I have a question for you. Krellin just asked me a question, which was, how's your book going? And I have a question for you, Krellin. How did you know that something to read, book, meant a book that I need to read for my book that I'm writing? How did you know that? How did you know that that was about a book for my book? How did you know? Let's see. So we just got basically, I get to start all of my summer on Monday, because I basically had the end of the semester and then went basically directly to the Board Game Week. So I get to start on Monday everything, and I've got a lot to start, so I'm kind of excited because I've been your friend for a decade. Okay, Krellin, that's true, and that's how you know these things, I guess. Sometimes I think that no, you all know me. That's why. So I'm starting everything on. So this is my goal. So today, once we finish stream, I'm probably going to go. Oh, I've got like Artie's like, also, it makes logical sense. I guess. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you right now. After game, I should go to the pharmacy, and I will go to the pharmacy and get a burrito. But what I should do before I do that, no, I don't have to. No, yes, is that I'm going to plan my food for the week. I've got some stuff in the fridge, but I really need to like sit down and plan what it is I'll be eating and drinking for the week. And I will get groceries. I'll go to the pharmacy. I'll get some groceries. I will cook something tonight because it's Saturday night and I don't have a thing tonight, but I do tomorrow night, probably. So I'll do some meal prep tonight. So tonight I'm going to get groceries, do meal prep, plan the week, plan also my summer schedule a little bit. Like plan like when I'll be working the book, when I'll be riding my bike, all that good stuff. And I need to do email. I need to do like a lot of email, an inappropriate amount of email. Also, even though it is the summer, students are asking me to do things for them. So I need to do a little bit of that. So I think it's going to be a nice, I should probably unpack, but I think it'll be a really nice preparing for the summer week. So I think it'll be really good. Yes, you should get some food. Not sure why your pharmacy has burritos, but okay. Well, the pharmacy doesn't have burritos, but there are burritos next to the pharmacy. That's why. It's a pharmacy that's also grocery. Well, technically it is also grocery, but I wouldn't want to get a burrito from them because those burritos are frozen and sad. But there is an actual burrito place really close. I wonder. I just had some thoughts. Maybe I'm planning a meal for tonight. No, because there's a burrito place I haven't been to in a while, and that would be nice. But yeah, so can I tell you something? It's not really important for you all, but it's important for me. So I have this recipe for pickled turmeric ginger cauliflower. That's like, it's a fridge pickle. You'd like make the brine, put it in the mason jar, just put it in the fridge. And I love it. Like, I really love this recipe. I love it so much. I kind of can't handle it. It's so delicious that I want to die. And I just thought I'd tell you all that because I have some in the fridge right now. I have some of this cauliflower. Like, I didn't have I was supposed to like cut up actual ginger and turmeric root, but I didn't have that. Well, I did, but it went bad because I didn't cut it up quickly enough. So I just had to use turmeric powder and minced ginger. But you know what? It's okay though, because it still works and it's delicious. And I needed you to know that because I feel like you didn't know how delicious that was. But now you do. Mexican food is harder to come by in Germany. Oh, Musach. I had some terrible Mexican food in Germany. Really bad. If it's important to you, it's important to us. Although I can't send anything pickle. So good though. Ooh, that's a good look. I had some terrible Mexican food in Germany, really bad, so bad that it was kind of great. Do you know what I mean? Because it was bad. But I also had really bad Mexican food in Italy, and I don't know which one was worse. They were both pretty bad, but you believe it, right? But Musaj, it was okay. Actually, I think I think I preferred the bad food in Germany because it just didn't make any sense, and so that was kind of amusing. Whereas the bad food in Italy, the bad Mexican food in Italy, just was bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you looked at the food, the bad Mexican food in Italy, you think, oh, this could be good. And then it really wasn't. But if you looked at the bad Mexican food in Germany, you're like, oh, wow, what did you do? Why is this happening? And that at least gave me something fun, you know? I wouldn't eat Mexican. No, it wasn't. The Mexican food in Italy wasn't very good at all. Burrito from before sounds like Prohibition at the 20s when folks brought haggis across the border. Yeah. I love that. Carlin says, I can't imagine getting Mexican in Europe. North Africa would be more appropriate place for Mexican. Yeah. So the Mexican food in Italy, I was in Italy and I was like, sometimes I just like doing things, right? Like I like to order McDonald's in each country to see how they're different, and they're super different. And if there's Mexican food, now I want to go and eat it and see what it's about. There's a great Ethiopian restaurant you knew in Munich. Ooh, yeah, I had some great Ethiopian in Munich. But do you know what I miss about Germany besides Bavarian food? Doner kebabs on the street, so good. So good, the doner kebabs. So delicious. Just street doner kebab stalls. So good. So good. Was it Mexican food or sad Tex-Mex? Oh, Volus. Oh, Volus. Oh, Volus. Though you'd think Germany would appreciate chorizo. Though maybe that's too spicy of sausage. Krellin, now you're making me think about spicy food in Germany. And I've got to think of what kind of spice. There's great Italian food in Germany. What kind of spicy food? Is German food spicy? I'd never thought about that before. I have never thought about whether or not German food is spicy before. Oh. Okay, wait. They've got some very spicy mustards, right? So there's some very spicy mustards in Germany. That's true. Musach is like, spicy is not very common by default. Spicy mustards, that's kind of spicy. Artie says, even between the Canada and US, there was a difference back when I used to go to the US and ate McDonald's. Yeah, I just found McDonald's is often better outside of the United States than it is inside of the United States. But I just think that's kind of interesting. Oh, gosh. Musach, you're from Germany. You should help me out. What are the spicy things? Tamako says, well, I can't help you. I have an uneducated palate. Okay, so spicy sausages. Spicy mustards that you put on a sausage. What else is spicy in Germany? Oh, horseradish. Oh, absolutely, yes. Horseradish is spicy in Germany. Yes. That's because foreign McDonald's need to conform to foreign food standards. That's what it is. Germany's got very high food standards, and McDonald's in Germany is really good. Just side note. Non-working ice cream maker is universal experience. That's true. What else? Gosh, now you got me thinking about, so horseradish, mustard, everything plain, pretty much. Very much the wrong person to ask about food. Oh, Artie, though, but I think that's probably not true, because I bet, for all I know, you're really good at talking about meat. I don't know, but I bet you would be, or you could be. You may not be, but you could be. Because just because you like it plain doesn't mean you don't have a palate. It's just you like plain. That's all. Traditional German food is not very spicy. I guess. I'm trying to think about it. That's true. It is salty. Is salt considered a spice? Because again, I'm from Bavaria, so that's the kind of food I know. I don't know what they do in like northern Germany. It's like a fish, right? They do a lot of fish up there. I don't know. I bet you. Oh, no, no. Valtio, spicy currywurst. That's true. That's true. A good spicy currywurst. Um, do you know what I was thinking? I was thinking that maybe Italian food's not very spicy either. I think we tend to think of Italian food as spicy, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's not very spicy. These are things that I'm thinking. We don't have much spices that grow here naturally. Ah. Uh-huh. Yes. Hey, Lone Crew, Mediterranean food is not. Yeah, this is the thing I'm thinking about. So sorry. I know we have to start the game soon, but Lone Crew, we're talking about whether or not about spicy German food, and we're thinking. And so here's the thing. I was just, I think about this every once in a while. It's one of those things that I think about. I think about how before contact with the New World, there just was a lot of stuff that Europe didn't have that we might take for granted. Potatoes. Everyone's like, oh, Irish and potatoes, but potatoes were a New World crop, so they didn't have potatoes in the medieval era. They didn't have tomatoes. They didn't have corn. They didn't have chocolate. They didn't have just so many things they didn't have. And I just think about that every once in a while. Tomatoes. Artie says, and yet that seems to be very strange a lot of the time. The number of times I've had to be explicit about wanting things plain, as otherwise restaurants just don't for some reason. You know what, Artie, you should get what you want. I think it's totally fine for you to want plain food. I think that's fine. I heard German food is not spicy in general. Mm-hmm. We associate Italy with tomatoes, but that's a New World crop. New World crop, right? Trooper, I don't think anyone really expects you to get to the game until at least an hour in. I like to get into the game before an hour in. That's my goal. But also I have so many things to tell you. Yeah, there's something... gosh. Hey, Prax, we're talking about how all the food that we really love is like our New World crops. And so thinking about what people had in Europe before pre-contact, and we're thinking about the spice levels in Europe. And because I was trying to think about what kind of German food was spicy, and really it came down to horseradish and mustards. And then I was thinking, actually, I don't think Italian food's all that spicy. And we're talking about how a lot of food is just actually, a lot of the European food is actually just not that spicy. And I'm trying to rack my brain to come up with spicy foods and that are European. And I'm having a hard time with it, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we eat a lot of rye because a lot of soil isn't great for farming until fertilizer. Ooh. Oh, Krella, I'm totally going to play the game today. I'm going to do it. Artie says, I know one burger place had little blurbs for each of their burgers, and the basic plain burger blurb was, if your date orders this run. What? Look, there's nothing wrong with eating things plain. My goodness, people need to stop being weirdly judgmental. There's so many wars over spice trade in Europe. It is spice deprived. Yeah. Okay, so Southern Italian food would have been spiced much earlier, even without chili, as Szechuan black peppers. Yeah. Milsich also likes plain food. Time of Gift says, well, the Irish menu had a lot of fish bream, trout, of course, the salmon of knowledge myth. Oh. So do you get spiced? Here's stuff like... Okay, so... All right, wait. Two things. One, when I say spicy, I know everybody wants to use the word spicy to mean hot, but there are other spices besides hot, right? And I like nutmeg is a spice, right? So I just kind of want to put that out there, that nutmeg is a spice. Also, there's some really nice spiced cookies, like a Lebkuchen, but not the Lebkuchen that uses flour, but the Lebkuchen that's all like nuts and spices. Those are delicious. Onion and garlic are considered spices. That's true. And I really do. Yes. Mm-hmm. I put salt and fries and steak seasoning. Oh, which are spices but not hot on steaks, but that is it. Oh, I think I've had some steak seasoning once. I think it was pretty good. Oh, okay. So I wanted to tell you about the board game Getaway. We played the Queen's Dilemma. It was very good. Also, we played Mind Management, which is a 4v1 game where one person, it's a hidden movement game where one player plays like a a psychic agent who's going through the city, and the other people have to try to figure out where they are. It reminds me a lot of the board game Stop Thief, but a little different. So that was fun. We played Desperation, which was good. I remember I was like, oh yeah, Desperation. We played... I think that was mostly it because we didn't have a lot of time. But it was really good. And I really enjoyed Mind Management, and I want to play it again. And I was just reminded about how Desperation's cool. And I want to make a mod for it. Like I want to make a scenario. Also, I was reminded playing Rune last night that I want to make a Rune scenario, a Rune realm. Those are things I'm reminded of. That's what I wanted to tell you. And what is the... Yeah, a lot of like noodles, meat. Desperation the game, not Desperation of Being. That is correct. Prax says Europe wasn't very spice deprived in medieval ages, and earlier was very flavorful without hot chilies. The Silk Road trade in spices existed since at least the Mesopotamian period. It is also important to remember that the belief of bland European food of Northern Europe is a 17th century invention that became a truth by the 18th century. Thyme and other herbs to season food, absolutely. Absolutely. Saffron. There's in the Game of Thrones cookbook, The Feast of Thrones, there's like a saffron chicken recipe. So these are all like medieval recipes. Although it's tricky because some of the recipes the authors got, because basically the authors went and found medieval recipes that correlated to things from the book. But for some of the places in the Game of Thrones world, they're a lot more North African. So they had to go and look diversely to get their recipes for some of them. I think I do have book on the brain now. Thyme and herbs to season food. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Or the board game Fury of Dracula. Oh, yes. Fury of Dracula. Yes. That's another one that's just like that. That's another one. It's good. I have that one, and it's good. I like that one a lot. Where you crisscross Europe after the count, always play a vampire on Cagliari, Sardinia, if you play the count. If he was a traitor in that game in Fury of Dracula, it doesn't have a traitor mechanic. I see you. And that brings me joy. There was something else I wanted to tell you, but we're going to start the game. At least we're going to have the game happening so that, so that at least it's here. Prax says the blandness was tied to trade disruptions with wars between colonial powers, and then was sold to British nobility as high class. Ooh. The story so far: Alia's search for the missing roboticist, Janiki Renba, has ended at the wreckage of his ship. Renba was looking for Heaven's Vault, an ancient observatory he believed to hold the only hope of preventing a darkness from overtaking the nebula. Using a similar device to one the roboticist uncovered, NK has triangulated a possible location for the vault, but it lies impossibly far beyond the borders of the nebula. Renba's search began with a telescope-like device recovered from a buried ship. Alia has found something similar at an old recording station. We will have game music background. Krellin says, having a spice trade that brought spices from elsewhere is what I meant by spice deprived. Not that they don't use spices in their food, but they had to get spices from other places. So, here's my question. A lot of melons are New World too. Anyway, there's just a lot of stuff that's New World as it turns out. But I have a question. What are the crops that are native to Europe? I need my cursor. I wonder if, okay, crops native to Europe. Okay, let's see. Let's see. What vegetables are native to Europe? Okay. List of food origins. Looking for Northern Europe. Okay. Onions and garlic are native. Okay, that's good to know. Good, good, good. If it's a plant and it isn't basilica or turnip, it's probably New World. Not even that is inaccurate. A number of ancient and medieval spices existed in Europe but aren't extensively used anymore. Like what? Prax, like what? Also, Prax, I've got something to tell you that you'll be interested in, but I can't tell you just yet because I've got to fight. I've got to read this, and then I'll tell you. Don't forget AD&D. Okay, let's see. It says here, large crabgrass, angelica, I do not know that vegetable. Cabbage, love cabbage. So angelica is some sort of Norwegian celery. Cabbage, parsnips, and kohlrabi. No, Prax is not a player, but I have to tell her something about it because if she were a player, she'd know, but she doesn't know yet because I'm going to tell her because she'd like to know. Maybe she wouldn't, but I want to tell her anyway. Kohlrabi, I've never had kohlrabi until I went to Germany. Fruits, black currant, branson, apricot, cloudberry, Nordic, garden strawberry, gooseberry, Gelder rose, hawberry, lingonberry, I know about those, pears, red raspberry, red currant, sloe, bilberry. So there are a lot of berries that I don't know about. Domestic rabbit, hazelnuts, rapeseed, canola, caraway, dill, hops, and tarragon. Those are herbs and spices. Cloudberry is orange-colored raspberry that grows in bogs. Oh. Are they delicious? Where are they from? Because that sounds like it could be cool. Huh. The Arctic. Oh, a salmonberry. Also, if you want to say anything about the thing, feel free. I'm making the graphic now. Yeah. So are cloudberries good? Nordic, it's rather bitter. Ah, okay. So that was all Northern Europe. Also caraway, dill, hops, and tarragon. So then Southern Europe or Mediterranean, we get broccoli, Brussels sprouts, caper, cauliflower, collard, kale, and peas. And then you get the cornelian cherry, the juniper berry, the sea berry, and olives. I don't know sea berries either. There's a bunch of stuff that I don't know. Look, there are a bunch of things from Europe that just never made it over to the United that you cannot generally get here just on the regular, you know? Okay, like 5 of those are basilica. Yeah. Catnip is also apparently from Southern Europe or the Mediterranean. Common sage, fennel, oregano, parsley, and rosemary. Well, what else? Landforms, trees, fruits. Carrot, cabbage, parsnip, turnip, currant, and gooseberry. These are great names. I'm probably going to steal some of them from your D&D world. You probably should, actually, because they sound great. Icebine. Fruits native to England. The native fruits of the British Isles, and which, till the 13th or 14th century, must have been the only sorts known to the common people, are the following. Small purple plums, sloes, which I've never had a sloe, I don't even know what it looks like. Wild currants, brambles, I didn't know that a bramble was a fruit. Raspberries, wood strawberries, cranberries, blackberries, red berries, heatherberries, elderberries. Cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, collard, all basilica. Yeah, that's a lot of them. So here is more European. This is a list of half-forgotten European food plants to consider. Salsify. I have no idea what that is. Apparently the Greeks and Romans used salsify to up until the last century. It's a dandelion relative, but it has fallen out of popularity in the modern times. Sometimes it's called an oyster plant. There's also scorzonera, which is like salsify. There is skirret. It originated in China, but it moved west pretty early on. Rampion. It's a root vegetable, I guess, like carrots, I guess. Turnip-rooted chervil, which is a carrot family relative. Fava beans, which I've heard of because of the movie The Silence of the Lambs, but I don't think I've ever had them. Parsnips, I know parsnips. Turnips, I also know turnips. Turnips and parsnips are not forgotten. What a weird article. That's all. I just thought I'd share those with you. Also, turnips, endive, artichokes. Oh, no, that's from Africa. Sorry. Apples are European. Endive lettuce and turnips are European. There you go. That's it. I don't know how I feel about all that. I just don't know how I feel about all of that. I don't know. So, I did want to tell you something. What was it going to tell you? We're going to continue. Oh, the ruined tower. Ruined tower. Right. I did not tell Prax what I was going to tell her, but now I can tell her. Prax says, also important to note that almost all beans originate in Eurasia, regardless of variety. I think there are 2 that are originally African. Prax, it sounds like you're treating Europe and Asia as one continent. How very not European of you. So, this is the ruined tower. Let's see what's in here, shall we? I mean, yes. Right. Okay, I was going to tell Prax something. Europe is a fake continent made up by privilege. I mean, look. It still boggles my mind. It won't open. Oh, I'm running out of air. Cool. Cool. Let's see what we can do. We got to move fast. It still boggles my mind. Here's our way in. Oh, okay. What do we have here? Look at this place. Less than 7 minutes of oxygen.
Air should have reeked of ash and smoke. But no. Nothing.
That's because there's not enough air. Obviously.
These walls were dry bones.
I think this place is ancient. Older than anything we've seen before. I agree, but the materials, the construction, they are old, yes. But I would not say they were primitive. I didn't say primitive. The frames are much the same as those on Elborath. I never said primitive. What happened to the people who built this place? Where did they go? I suppose they traveled. They spread. The site is older than Iox, older than Elborath. These people were settlers. Are these the people who built the robots? Are these people who built you? Ancient sailors. I wonder if there are any ancient settlers still out there. Most likely not. It has been a long time. And we have not seen their boats. Right, but what if they're on the other side, in that whole area? As a proof of Europe's fateness, tell me where the eastern edge is. It must have fallen from the floor above. I believe it was the floor above. It's beautiful. Some kind of gemstone inlaid. There's an inscription, too. Boop, 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 boop. Running around the edge of the circle here. Okay, we got something. Oops, so sorry about that little microphone. We got something. There's a few words in this one. I hope that it pauses our oxygen while we look. Gros Belgian endive, the comet which apparently sunk Michael Dukakis in 1988 in the farm states, although he carried Iowa. Yeah. And maybe we haven't seen their boats because they sailed them away, which is a great song, Orinoco Flow by Enya. So let's see what we have here. We've got some words. Like this here, give, fits right in here, but it's clearly we are missing. That's going to be wrong, is what I'm trying to say. It's just going to be wrong, which I guess is fine. And this is clearly not a full, complete word. So we are missing important things here, which means we do not have the words yet for all of this. Oops. Yeah, this is going to be a mess. I just thought I'd share that this is going to be a mess because we clearly don't have the proper words for this yet. I think it is was, not is. Yeah, I think you're correct. I think it is was, which means that becomes time or past. Well, I guess we put this here. We put some ofs in. This is just a complete mess, by the way. This is all bad. Forget that then. Yeah, I know. It's a mistake and also a testary. Does give of water was act of for homework? No, it does not. What is it? We just don't have the right words yet. A geometric pattern? I think it's a map. Some kind of insignia. I think it's a map. It's not an eagle and sun, that's for certain. It's a map. Also, we're running out of time. Huh, there's something poking out here. A chipped water-bearer goddess sculpture carved from stone. Dating from ancient times? There's an inscription. On her head. Do we... Okay. This is one end of a broken fragment of text. We have to go as fast as possible. Again, I hate it when we miss things, but... Pray something. Pray for. I think... I can add my translation for pray to my dictionary now. Yes. Yes, pray for... Ooh, okay, so this is something of goddess, knowledge, or blessings probably, right? Maybe? Mercy? So it's something of goddess. So it's like bless, but this is like blessings probably, or... Maybe that makes it a noun. I could still change my mind, but... Pray for blessings? Noun? Yeah. This comes from the same source as the effigy in the shattered statue we found before, I think. I know that the oxygen isn't low, but this will make the unknown extremely ancient site easier to find. Look, I get it. Blackened. Fire must have been immense. flames filling the space. It's amazing anything survived. There are questions, but we need to walk around. Are there other settlements here? On this moon? Not that I can see. Perhaps people did not often come here. We're going to do our best to see. I want to make sure we're running, shelves. If there were scrolls on these shelves, the fire reduced them to ashes. And then the wind swept the ashes. Pray for cowards is what Elborathians would say when they brave Eowyn's soup. Okay, so we have very limited time, actually. The fire must have been terrible, hot enough to blister the plaster, perhaps even to use up the moon's air. Okay, downstairs. I'm dithering and I shouldn't because we don't have the time to dither.
I was stumbling over my own feet.
I know. I get it. Please, Aaliyah, you're, how long do I have? Yeah, how long do we have? Call it 4 minutes. This is the door we saw on the other side. Stuck fast. Okay, well, alright, great. We're gonna have to go upstairs, I think. I really do like the details. So, Prax. Aaliyah. Stay quiet. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Only 3 minutes of breathable oxygen remaining. Aaliyah, stairs leading up. Luckily they were so sturdily built. I've just been, doing my research on...
Right on the brink was an enormous
Mesopotamia.
book on a curved metal stand.
Oh, there's something down there I didn't get. This is a map. This is a beautiful piece of work. Take it with you. Heavy, ornate. And the book is unscathed. It looks like it's also chained. The cover. We need to take this book. There are symbols in the leather. More like Mesopotamia, am I right? This one is a phrase run together. Okay. Future. And lose. Something lose future. History. Of. This doesn't feel right. I know. Also, we don't have a lot of time. Okay, so, history of future, something future. Okay, so we have via, we have lose, lost, probably, maybe. Yeah, I think lost. History of lost future? Makes sense to me. That will do for now. We don't have a lot of time. What does that mean? We don't have a lot of time. We gotta go. A book of prophecies? Come on. We're losing our air. Let us, open the book. I want to just take it, but I want to know what's inside. Can you just take the book? Oh, but it's chained shut. Let's take the book. I can't leave this here. I know. But it's chained to the stand. We have to take the book. Pulling the book free. Maybe I can. Also, we have almost no oxygen left. Oh, no, maybe I can't. We need this book. Can we come back? I can't even lift it right now. Can our robot lift it? Robots don't have hands. I'll have to leave the book behind. No, can we come back for it? Wong would kill me if he found out. I know. I know. Be careful up there, Aaliyah. The floor is not sound. I know. Is that sand down there? Or ash? Okay, we have so little time. More inlaid sickles. Mesopotamia, Babylon, Sumeria. This one's inscribed around the edge as well. Oh, we have so little time. We've got no air left. Mosaic floor and, double X. 0 and no path for heaven's vault was lost. Huh. And 0 path for heaven's vault was lost. I think that's correct. You hear that, Empress NK? We have almost... There's a path to heaven's vault. We are running out of time. We're gonna die. Maybe you had to try to get the book when you had more oxygen. It's chained shut, though. I worry about this. With the view across the dust, it seems to have escaped the fire. You can still see the doodles scratched into the lacquer by whoever worked here. Ancient, of course. Okay, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't get to come back. You're using the option, there's no source. Oh, it's not going to come back, you're right. This is terrible. I wish we had, like, a breathing tube. My... something. Does. Aaliyah, I do not think you have enough. My milkshake, it brings all the boys to the yard. This place must have been ornate once. Gilded, decorated. But whoever burned this place made sure to loot it first. There must have been another level up here. Maybe several? Now there's just a drop. Empress. Aaliyah. Empress, I don't. I'm activating the hopper, Aaliyah. Do we not get to come back? And so we left the surface of the sand-covered moon with the burned tower. With enough new information to locate an undiscovered site. You're right, though, Krellin, about the oxygen not being replenished. I want to come back here. What an interesting cosmology. Aboard the Nightingale, we returned to the ship and sprang up into the water. I just feel like we don't... I feel like there was more in there. Maybe not. My oxygen's coming back. My head. Take your time, Aaliyah. You are safe. I need a breathing apparatus. You can take me back now. That would be unwise. Hal? Was there anything else to find down there to find? Probably. No. What if there was, though? The place had been thoroughly burned. That's mysterious. I want a breathing apparatus called a milkshake. we should sail and replenish the air aboard this ship. Oh, that's interesting. And why? We cannot go back. The last of the air is gone. See, Krellin was right. There are no plants to replenish it. Krellin was right. Its story ends now. So what happens to the library now? Very little will happen to it, I think. I guess I'm going to rest. I don't like it. There was a book! I'm going to rest in Kai. Very good, Aaliyah. What is our heading? To Elborath, perhaps? Yeah, let's go back to Elborath. I've got friends there. I guess. All right, I love to sail fast. Roller dreams of squiggles. So, oh, how if I sail these alleyways will still be my home? Note, there would need to be some oxygen for plants too. They are net producers of oxygen, but they're still parts of the life that require normal aerobic respiration. Oh, which is probably why there's no plants there either. What an interesting world, right? The way that oxygen works in this place. So, by the way, I've decided that the planet that my AD&D campaign takes place in is going to be. I want it to be like I was thinking about the shape of the planet. Did I want it to be flat? And I was like, I don't really want it to be flat. I think I want it to be more like a pill. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like thick with like a little hump on the top and the bottom. And I was like trying to think what I wanted it to look like. And in the end, I decided that it will be a globe, but it'll be a hollow globe, and all the people live on the inside of the globe. That's what I've decided. At least right now. Because I just didn't, because here's the thing. I think so often when people play D&D, they just kind of assume that the planet they're on is basically Earth. And I just want it to be very clear that it's not Earth. So I think it's going to be a hollow planet with people living on the inside of the hollow planet. That's what I'm thinking. The hollow world is a classic D&D world. Love it. Kind of like a Dyson sphere. And the thing is, you can dig and mine, but you can't go too deep because you'll break through to the outer shell of the planet, and then you'll fall into space, and that would be really bad. Nobody wants that. But then I'm thinking, okay, so if it's a hollow planet and you're on the inside, I guess, how do the day-night cycles work? Because there wouldn't be stars in the sky because you're inside of a planet, right? So I guess there's like a molten core, which is sort of like your sun, I guess, to give you daytime. But then do you have day-night cycles at all? Do you have day-night cycles if you live inside of a hollow world? Well, if it was a Dyson sphere, they're usually built around a star. That's true. You could. The light source could be magical. Well, that's true. You know what? You know what I bet it could be like? All right, work with me. The molten core, the heart of the planet could beat. It could beat, right? And the beating of the heart could be like a slow pulsing, like in and out. Or maybe it's an uneven molten core. One side dark, the other brighter, and it rotates. Yeah, that would work. I think, right, but if it were like a heart that pulses, like in and out, like a pulsar or whatever, then it could be like, it grows really dim and gets small and then grows, like, so the night is a darker light, maybe like full moonlight. Yeah. I mean, depending on what you want to do, you could set up a shield, a magical shield that rotates, allowing both bright and dark. Oh. Do you know what this would mean? If rather than a rotating core, you have like a pulsing core, then that means that everybody's in the same time zone, right? That's what that would mean, right? Everyone's in the same time zone, because if it doesn't rotate, right? If it pulses, like it gets bigger and then it gets smaller and dims, gets bigger and brighter, smaller and dims, then that would mean that everybody's in the same time zone all around the hollow globe. But that would also imply that it gets really hot in the middle of the day, and then it gets really cold at midnight. I need to get back to the game, but I'm thinking about this because I've got deserts, and then I've got forests, which is just normal desert life. That's true. That is just normal desert life. Are there weather patterns? I would think there'd have to be weather patterns. So what does that mean? So here's the thought. The core of the planet could be a little off-center, which could mean that one part of the inner core, one part of the inside of the globe could be a little bit warmer than the others. I mean, the dwarves in my campaign live primarily underground, so can't use the sun for timekeeping. So they have structured their days around 3 shifts, and time is kept through the use of gongs. It means the shell of the world is probably very, very large. Yeah, I think the shell of the world is very, very large and thick, so you can do your mining. Does the desert biome has a mimic just inside a giant tumbleweed world? Yes. And the source is probably pretty small. Yes, that would also make sense, right? It's like a very small heart. Oh, and of course the heart belonged to one of the gods. Obviously, like a dead god. Or sort of dead god. Oh no, it's like Gaia, because you know how in ancient Greece, Gaia was the planet Earth? So the planet is also an Earth goddess, I guess. So so they still use hours, but call them gongs. So that's cool, in order to communicate with the surface world. Oh. So this is like I'm trying to do this campaign super old school, which means I don't need to actually plan out all the world building, but now I'm planning all the world building. What's wrong with me? That's just what's happening. So there are weather patterns, and I guess you would call them the gods, probably. So, side note, I've decided that the Summerland, the kingdom of the Summerlands, the empire of the Summerlands, the old gods are Sumerian gods, and the new gods are the Babylonian gods, because I do have deities and demigods. But I feel like the Sumerian and the Babylonian gods are not like a full pantheon for all the different alignments. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of adjustment, I think. You do world building because it's fun. Yeah, it's true. I do world building because it's fun and not because I have to. So yeah, so I think that, yeah. Yes. Yeah, they have 3 shifts, one for work, one for sleep, and one for rest fellowship. Oh, that's good. Hey, Max, I am winning because we're talking about world building. World building is the fun part. So I'm thinking that probably we have, if there's weather patterns, it's probably just the moods of the goddess. And if the center core, the heart of the goddess, is a little off-center, then one half of the globe, far wet, do not come again. What? This is my home. Don't be rude to me. Why do people want to be rude to me? What is up with that? So I'm thinking, if it's a little off-center, right, that means we could have one place that's hotter than the other side. You know, you could have more biomes if it's an off-center heart. Oh, let's talk to our friends first. A fairly traditional belief was Earth goddess and Sky goddess. Yeah, right? But the Sky goddess would be unknown. Sky god goddess would be unknown because it's on the outside. Aaliyah. So I really like this. We are living inside of a goddess. So inside of a hollow earth. There are seas, of course. Here. You're too good to me, Timur. Most likely. So we've got like deserts. I'm being inspired by like the Gobi Desert, but also by the Arizona Badlands, right? The Mojave. Or the Sky Goddess contained within the Earth Goddess, and the weather is his moods. Ooh, that's cool. That's cool. I like that. That's good. Ooh, because she swallowed him. Are you well, Timur? Stronger than ever. Still quiet. She swallowed him. It'll have to do. Well, I'll sip my drink. You want another Rocky? No, please. Another time. So looks like I don't get a lot of conversations with him. Yeah, I changed the way that religion and the gods work in my world, where it is less of a focus on worship and more honoring and respecting what they represent. Would Sapience then be his children and attempt to free himself? Ooh. Y'all, see you around, Timur. Don't be a stranger. Looks like I don't have much more to talk to him right now. That's fine. I think I've got new things to do, because I think we'll use the Babylonians and the Sumerians as a base, but I'll have to sort of like rename them a little bit to get all the things in there. Or maybe dwarves specifically are children of the sky god who dig into the earth to seek freedom from her prison. Ooh, that's also really good. By the way, Set Boyaki Rifar. Ifarali. So, Set Ifarali. Set Boyaki Kat Ifar. I still can't think of what to say next. Still no use. So, you know how in D&D, in AD&D 1E, it says in the rule book that dwarves dislike elves, etc., etc. Okay. All that stuff. But I was looking at Al-Qadim, which is 2E, which we're not doing. We're doing 1E. And they say that in Al-Qadim, the races are fine. They get along just fine. So I'm a little bit inspired by that as well. And so, reminds me of the TikTok Loki theory, where Loki tricked the Aesir, took the Idun apples and LARPed as baby Jeebus. 2E and 1E are close enough to touch. You know what's so funny, Max? Everyone says that, but I started in 1E, and when 2E came out, I thought it was so different, I just didn't play it. I was like, this is way too different than 1E. And so I think it's always really interesting how people now think of 1E and 2E as basically the same, but everyone does 2E, not 1E. But at the time, I remember thinking, oh, this 2E, this is so different. This is so different. And I was like, nope. Nope. Too different. I'm going to play other games. I started 1E as well. THAC0 can be confusing, but essentially just replaces 1E charts. You can see how 2E came from 1E, but they are so different. Yeah, I do feel like they're quite different. And you can start seeing by the very end of 1E with the Wilderness Survival Guide and the Dungeoneer Survival Guide that some of the things that were going to be in 2E just start getting introduced right at the very end. But they just felt very different for me. This place looks terrible. I was glad to see into those charts personally. I see you. Let me Show him an artifact. I've uncovered a few items you might be interested in. Oh, yes? The chip sculpture. So, something else. If you play Baldur's Gate 2, which is coded as 2E, you can see a lot of ideas that grew into 3E. Those standards are not so high anymore. Ha, no matter. I should be able to do something with that. I have something of a similar period, I think. I drop something. Ah, here we are. Oh. A brass jug carved with a depiction of a spider. Inside is heavily stained. Must have belonged to a heavy drinker. And there's something etched in here around the rim. Aha. Yes. Yes. I'm trying to type, but Lan kept jumping up on the desk, and I had to get him to jump down, as the desk is not for cats. Too many wires to chew, and he's a big wire chewer. Yes. Copper Glitch said, I think for me the difference is that 1E was combat crunchy focused, and 2E reduced the combat crunch and spread it around to other systems. And Krellin says, so Trooper, you could keep the elf-dwarf enmity if the elves are children of the earth goddess. They respect, worship, and cultivate the earth. And from the dwarven perspective, they're wards, guards of the prison. I like that, but so the thing is, what I figured is that the elves and the dwarves didn't actually have enmity originally. So, that came later, and it was a trick. So, in the Summerlands, there is none of that stuff is there. None of that. But in Avonlea, the kingdom of Avonlea, that is there, but that happened because I look, I'm going to put it out there probably on the Discord at some point, Patreon at some point, but I just made 3 big documents, one using the Voynich manuscript as the background, and then some good handwriting font, and then those are the first 2, and then this third one is using the Gutenberg Bible as the base background, and then a nice sort of movable type font to represent these 2 different places. But I'm building up the pitch to the players, so they've seen the 3 documents. I need to make a map for them, and I need to make the actual show Bible. But I've got it now. I'm basically flipping. Well, what I've done is there's the Valley of Avonlea. And they're the 97 principalities of Avonlea originally. And then the 97 principalities of Avonlea, which is like in a huge, huge valley with lots and lots of forests. And they're the principalities of man and halfling who live together. And they had to live in their like cities, walled cities. And the principalities were surrounded by deep forest, dangerous forest with scary monsters like elves and dwarves and gnomes, things like that. Other things, werewolves. So Avonlea is sort of based on the kind of medieval fantasy that your generic medieval fantasy D&D type games, which means it's sort of like a mix between England and France, but a bit more based on Breton sort of mythology, Celtic mythology, a little bit more Breton style. But basically that, and they were all divided. And then there was a great and wonderful... Are you busy right now? Are you all busy? Are you busy? How busy are you right now in this moment? How busy are you? Are you busy? Right now? Do you have time for something? I've got to do this, but this seems like a nice pause moment. Are you busy? So each of the gods have 3 aspects. So Lumor's aspects are light, life, and creation, and Tenebrous' aspects are darkness, death, and destruction. But Lumor isn't seen as good, and Tenebrous as evil, but they are seen as almost twins that complement each other rather than in conflict. Oh, nope, I just beat up bad guys. I've got time. Okay, so Artie says, yeah, in my world, elves and dwarves get along fine. Elves are actually mostly the sages and mediators. They aren't stuck-up, arrogant elves from base D&D. That is more the humans, certainly, especially certain parts of the human empire. If we were busy, would we be in your chat? Maybe, I don't know. So I'm going to read you something. It's a secret. Don't tell anyone. AD&D, here you are. Okay, I'm going to read you something. It's a secret. Don't tell anyone. So what you have here is an excerpt from the account of the history of the Kingdom of Avonlea by scholar Marie du Vexin, royal historian. So this is an excerpt from a history of the Kingdom of Avonlea by the royal historian. The forests and farmlands of the great valley of Avonlea were, for many centuries, home to the 97 principalities of human and halfling. From the largest, comma, that should be a comma there. I could just actually delete the. We'll just delete that. I'm going to need to reprint that. That's fine. Don't worry about it. From the largest principality of Is in the north that used to lie upon the northeastern sea, to the smallest principality of Avon in the south, surrounded by impassable mountains on 3 sides. The principalities were separated from each other by the never-ending forbidden forest, home to dangerous and hostile creatures, such as the mysterious tree-like elves, the mysterious rock-like dwarves, the mysterious earth-like gnomes, and the other mysterious creatures who would kill a human or halfling on sight. The principalities of human and halfling did their best to survive the hostility of nature. This was not always easy. I love jugs. As the principalities of human and halfling in the Avonlea Valley began to grow, taming the wilderness and carving roads through the forests to connect each isolated and vulnerable settlement. Let's see, Artie says, one of the main reasons I created my own world for the campaign I run is so that I could change and adjust things I didn't like in typical fantasy and D&D settings. Avonlea is going to be in some ways a typical D&D setting, but there's a but there. I won't tell you just yet. Let's see. Oh yeah, so right now we have our vulnerable principalities of halfling and man being threatened, right? So as they began to sort of carve roads, the monsters of the forest began to attack us with no warning and for no reason. I'll just read that sentence again, because I broke it up. I'm so sorry. As the principalities of human and halfling in the Avonlea Valley began to grow, taming the wilderness and carving roads through the forests to connect each isolated and vulnerable settlement, the monsters of the forest began to attack us with no warning and for no reason. First gnomes, then elves, then dwarves, and all in between. They would kidnap our children in the night. They would burn down our crops. They would curse those of us who went into the forest, turning us into werewolves. Such werewolves would have to be killed by their own kin or be lost to the forest forever. It was a dark time. Each principality struggled to invent, discover, and grow, and each has a rich history, which I have illuminated in my 97-volume Histories of the Avonlea Principalities, and so shan't reproduce here. I have my own complex world too. Humans are the elder race in my world. Elves and orcs, which are the same species, are racial offshoots. Ooh, that's cool. The history of the Kingdom of Avonlea truly begins with Maiden Jean of Avon. Avon was the smallest and most isolated of the principalities. One day, Jean discovered gold in the mountains and thus began the mining of the deep mountains. This led predictably to war with the gnomes and dwarves. But Jean was able to trick them into thinking that we were told to mine and led to the gold by the elves. Interesting, the split between humans and halflings, and then the others are considered monstrous. So, right, she tricked the dwarves into thinking that the elves sold them out, and so then that led to war between the elves and the dwarves. The dwarves trained Jean in the ancient ways of dwarven martial skill and large force leadership on the promise that we would help them defeat the elves. And in the process, the dwarves gave her all the secrets of the elves they knew. Thus armed with those secrets, she went deep into the forest and tricked the elves into thinking the dwarves meant to invade the forests and that human and halfling would aid the elves. The elves trained her in the ways of magic and told her all the secrets of the dwarves and gnomes they knew. Armed with knowledge, martial skill, and magic, heroic and clever, Jean snuck into the most holy of vaults of the dwarves and elves and liberated each one's most revered mystical artifacts. The enchanted spear from the elves and the magic helmet of the dwarves. She blamed the thefts on the other sides and was able to engineer a hatred between the dwarves and gnomes on one side and the elves on the other that remains to this day, breaking the generations of peace they had previously had with each other. A spear and magic helmet, that is correct. Liberate is doing some lifting there from Trickster Britain. What? What, drummer boy? What are you talking about? Whatever do you mean? Gnomes and halflings, says Krellin, are also species separate from humans. Their differences are largely cultural, and dwarves are yet a third species. The gnomelings and dwarves are both explicitly aliens from other worlds. Oh, that's cool. Volus asks, does the historian tell the actual truth or the truth that those in power want to be told? Well, this is the royal historian. She is commissioned by the queen to write this history, so, you know. The war between the forest and mountain was brutal and bloody, but most importantly, distracting. The king of Avon appointed Jean our mage general, and she was able to defeat all mysterious creatures outside of civilization while making them think she was saving them. The queen of the elves pleaded for Jean to marry her son, Prince Ward, and the king of dwarves begged for Jean to take his daughter, Princess Ostage, as handmaiden. Because she was so compassionate, she did as she was asked, taking both the Prince of Elves and the Princess of Dwarves inside the walls of Avon for their own safety, ending all conflict between Avon and the surrounding wilds. When she returned to Avon City with her allies, she found to her dismay... I need to redo this. This is actually quite useful because there's a typo, so I have to redo my handout. Don't worry, but you're helping me out. When she returned to Avon City with her allies, she found to her dismay the king had suddenly taken ill. Recognizing humble but charismatic Jean, who came from the people, as the bravest and smartest of all, he named her his successor and banished all his children to the other principalities. Under Queen Jean the Good, she grew Avon from the smallest to the mightiest of principalities. We welcomed non-human and non-halflings into Avon, and with this cosmopolitan unity, Queen Jean the Good turned her eyes to perhaps the greatest danger of all, the northern principalities of man and halfling. The banished children of old King Arthur conspired in the northern principalities to invade and destroy Avon. To protect us all, Queen Jean the Good, that's another typo, Queen Jean the Good marched with a rainbow coalition of all beings to conquer all of the 96 other principalities, creating the kingdom of Avonlea with her as our first queen. Under the reign of Queen Jean the Good, Avonlea was peaceful and was able to grow and thrive. Certainly, there were still skirmishes with northern forest creatures, but we tamed them as we tamed the southern forest creatures. And yes, the very last holdout to accepting unification, the northernmost principality of Is, was tragically swallowed up by the sea in a way that no one could have predicted. In a way no one could have predicted, in punishment by the sea gods for warring against the good queen. Even still, no one could deny that the reign of Queen Jean the Good still... no one could deny... Where are you? Even still, no one could deny that the reign of the good queen birthed a golden age, an age of exploration, expansion, innovation, and advancement. It is now 200 years later, and Queen Jean the Good still reigns over Avonlea, the most civilized place in all of the world. Her extended lifespan evidence that the gods truly smile upon her, and that her destiny is to shine the light of Avonlea to all corners of the wondrous hollow globe we live inside. May she reign for another 200 years. This has only been a brief overview of the story of Avonlea. In the following 970 pages, I will retell in all detail and glory the official history of Avonlea, beginning with Chapter 1, The Dark Ages Before the Coming of Queen Jean. Hi. 970 pages, Max. What I'm reading is a piece of a prop that I have given to the players for the AD&D campaign that is starting in 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, our AD&D 1E campaign is starting, and I have created 3 props. And this is the first of the 3 lore props. There's another prop I have to make, but this is the first one. And it looks like, so the official histories from Avonlea are handwritten by a scribe on parchment and bound, leather bound, right? So it's a good handwritten scribe. Spent way too much time looking at fonts. Let's see what you all had to say. Yeah, in my world, I read a bunch of different versions of history depending on the player's background, what they would have been told. There is no war, and Ba Sing saying, You don't want Queen Jean to become mean. You don't. But she's good. Queen Jean is good. She's a very good queen. Everybody knows it. Artie says, oh, there was definitely war, but there is different views on the roles of the various races during that time. Copper Glitch says, so you're Shakespeare here? Uh-huh. Yes. Copper Glitch says, so Shakespeare here wrote 96 volumes of 10 plays for PR? That is correct. That is absolutely correct. That is 100% correct, Copper Glitch. Max Rider says, I'm back. Curse laundry. That her necromancers know how to keep a body fresh. What necromancers? She's just blessed by the gods. I don't know what you're talking about. It's totally normal for her to live over 200 years. It's fine. She's great. Everybody loves her. Hey, Werewolf Feels. In my world, the dragons are believed to be the first created and original creatures, although there was a huge war between the chromatics and the metallics, which led to an event known as the disappearance, where the vast majority of dragons all vanished without a trace. Ooh, she does have a large golden throne. She's great. You lie, she's been dead for 200 years. No, it's fine. So that's the first. I'm going to read you all 3 because you guys are here with me, so I get to tease this, because they get to take the twist. So the campaign is starting at level 1. We're starting at level 1. Full-on AD&D 1E experience, which means probably rust monsters and death. So that's the first one. The second piece is also an official writing, but it's not by the royal historian, Marie de Vauxon. It's actually by the court scholar for one of the princes. So much death, so much death. So this is an account of the lands of the mysterious West. It's not been approved of by the state. Oh, it has been approved of by the state, but the son of the queen, so a different court has approved this one. But this is also someone's official account. And this is Account of the Lands of the Mysterious West by scholar Marchand Daniel Pyramus, scholar for the court of Prince John, Marquis of the West Marches. Suddenly I got a vivid image of royal necromancers whacking Jean's corpse at the guild table. She is dead. Oh, okay, so we have the queen who's been reigning, the good queen, who is just, she's just a humble queen who wasn't even a queen. She just was a regular person who just happened to set the elves and dwarves into a war that will last forever by stealing their most precious, liberating their most precious artifacts, which she's used as weapons. Anyway, and then it's really fine. So she's got her sons. We're gonna hear, hey, Darth Credible Hulk, the good queen, she's great. She's great. You love her. No, she liberated them. She's clever. She's great. She's the best. She's the best. Causing genocide. You know what? It's fine. Anyway, so this is an account of the mysterious West. Mysterious West. She stole them for the greater good. She stole them for the greater good, is what she did. So there's a kingdom to the west, the mysterious West, and this is an account of the mysterious West. Once Queen Jean unified all the principalities of man and halfling. Please note, Marie Duvexon calls them the kingdoms of human and halfling, but this scholar here, Marchand Daniel Pyramus, calls them the principalities of man and halfling. But, you know, where did the jewel in the crown even come from? Great question. Nobody knows. Who knows? Once Queen Jean unified all the principalities of man and halfling into the kingdom of Avonlea, she looked outward to expand the influence in Avonlea. Queen Jean and Prince Consort Ward had 7 half-elven sons, all ambitious, brave, and bold. Being a woman of tender and delicate persuasion, she sent her 3 most ambitious and brave sons out of Avonlea to create new trade lines and encounter new kingdoms and bring back news of the greater world. Her 4 most loyal sons she named rulers of North, East, South, and West Marches. Her daughter, Gloriana, she has kept close to her in Avon, as mothers always desire to keep their daughters close to them. The 3 exploring princes, Quentin, Christopher, and Eric, left with adventures and returned with extraordinary treasure and knowledge and experience, granting them power and riches, because it's still AD&D 1E. When they returned, they gave tribute to their mother, the Good Queen, and set sail again. The northern, eastern, and southern marches long encountered other kingdoms and peoples. Sometimes those encounters were warlike, as outsiders attacked for no reason. Sometimes they were full of understanding. Those 3 princes, Lockley, Luke, and Cole, also sent adventurers out who returned with extraordinary treasure, knowledge, and experience, granting them power and riches, which they gave in tribute to their great mother, now the most powerful ruler in all of the hollow globe. Which god, it's a little, whichever one ordained the current ruler, whereas the god of the planet is a god, the skies. So they're mostly going to do, Avonlea's mostly sort of like the Celtic pantheon from deities and demigods, a little bit sort of adjusted, with kind of a Bretonian flair. But there's a secret that I can't tell you till I get to the end of this, because I want to tell you the secret. I think you'll like it. But what of the 7th son? The 7th son, Richard, scholar for the court of Prince Richard. I went from John to Richard because I wanted the allusion to Richard, King Richard II. But what of the 7th son? The 7th son, Richard, was the youngest and smallest of all the sons. Underestimated, he was given the West Marches, which bordered only desert, with no life anywhere to be seen. He was given this land because his brothers all fought for those assignments that seemed most obviously advantageous, leaving Prince Richard with the scraps. And the other princes would mock Richard for the uninteresting lands he bordered. He would gain no knowledge, treasure, riches, or power. At least, that is how it seemed. Would be funny if the sky god is a sea god who is sulking with their kelp cloak. Artie says, you know how you can tell someone is definitely good and never done anything questionable by enforcing their name as the Good Queen? That's exactly right. Absolutely correct. Always good. Undaunted, Prince Richard sent a group of knightly adventurers into the desert to explore and bring back riches. Tragically, almost all of them died, and the marches knights became too fearful to venture out into the desert again. Yet, Prince Richard was not about to be disheartened. He was no coward. And so Richard, who out of all the princes was most like his mother in his cleverness and compassion, allowed condemned criminals the honor of going off into the desert to explore in the name of the prince in exchange for freedom if they returned something of great value. He branded each one with a symbol of promise, declaring for all to see that these brave adventurers, called promissories, may travel in the desert freely and may one day become redeemed. And so he sent more and more groups of these adventurers out into the desert. Most of them died, but he had many brave adventurers, and that he would, but yet he had many brave adventurers that he would continue to send into the desert until they discovered something in his name that would show that he was the most valuable of sons. Freedom from the bonds of this mortal coil. Yep, and branding, true sign of compassion. Very, very compassionate. 25 years ago. Some of them may die, but that's a sacrifice he's willing to make. Yeah, he's very brave. Does he go on these trips himself? He does not, but he's very busy. But, you know, he's not afraid to send people out there. 25 years ago, one group of promissories, led by Sheila Bright Eyes the gnome, they were sent out into the desert. Thank you for letting me read this out loud, because I can fix these typos. They journeyed into the sands for ages, many of the party dying to thirst, including Sheila's husband. But eventually, they discovered a mysterious ruin. It also does help keep the prison population low. They discovered a mysterious ruin. It was thousands of years old, a strange, small ziggurat. Sheila mounted an expedition and explored the ziggurat fully. There were indeed treasures, but also strange horrors, from the undead to other unimaginable things. Many more died in the ziggurat. She and only 2 more survived. But this trio gained knowledge of this ancient, lost civilization, brought back tablets with mysterious writing on it, cuneiform, and many artifacts of gold and jewels. This surely would be enough to redeem Sheila. Also, Werewolf, I'm so glad you're here because I can't wait for you to hear the twist. He's a prince. It's ordained that he must stay in the palace, though he may want to leave. So in a way, he's living vicariously through these dying people with them, you know? Absolutely. Werewolf, that's exactly how it is, you know? And, you know, it's also in his name anyway, so he does get all the glory. So this trio gained knowledge of this ancient lost civilization, brought back tablets with very mysterious writing on it, and many artifacts of gold and jewels. This surely would be enough to redeem Sheila. However, clearly there were more things to learn, and Prince Richard could see into Sheila's heart to tell that she was not yet fully redeemed. And so he sent her back into the desert to learn more. Though Prince Richard was also kind and good. Artie says, I wonder if they have a system set up to ensure that there are always enough prisoners desperate enough to go into the waste to search for treasures. Vola says, sending troublemakers to D&D version of Australia for Fool's Errand might not be that bad. Suddenly there are harsher punishments for minor violations. Weird how that happens. But it's fine because he's good. He's good, right? You know? So, though Prince Richard was also kind and good, and so, out of the kindness of his heart, he took Sheila's only living child into his castle to keep safe while Sheila continued to explore. And explore she did. Hostage? Max Ryder, hostage? Why would you say that? He took her child into the castle where the child could live a lovely life while she went out exploring. That seems like a good and kind and compassionate thing to do, really. Sending prisoners on your deadly quest is sort of like a fantasy game staple. I'm just saying, Max, it's just, you know, it's fine, right? Eventually, through her exploration, she discovered something even more wonderful. A village of primitive people in the shadows of a number of great ziggurats. The village was built with mud bricks, unlike our buildings of wood, and the people were of all races, including sorts of elves and dwarves we'd never encountered, and creatures called half-orcs. They didn't speak our civilized language, and even though they were clearly too primitive to have built these ziggurats, they did have water and knowledge and spices we'd never seen. Typo. They also had gold and people with secret knowledge. Sheila learned to speak their language, found that they called this place the Summerlands, and negotiated that the people from Avonlea would be able to rest at this village, which they called... Typo. Which they called Kursag. When Sheila returned from this voyage, all the court was excited, and the knights and scholars and good loyal citizens wished to adventure again. But all those spaces for adventuring were taken by the promissories, people who had never really learned to appreciate what the court had given them. And so the good Prince Richard declared the disbanding of the promissories. Never again would the condemned be allowed to venture into the desert, and no promissory had proven themselves sufficiently redeemed. But Sheila was freed, and she reclaimed her child to live on the streets of the capital city of the West Marches. She had no money of her own, you see. All that she had found belonged to the prince as the funder of the expedition. That is always those that have issues with the current regime that get these harsher punishments. It's fine. It isn't a hostage, it's an enforcement. They could not have built these, Clerk writes, while watching those same people building what they can't build. I know. Somebody said, our fake England. So impressed with her youngest son, Queen Jean the Good declared that Prince Richard was the sovereign of all of the desert lands of the West, these summer lands. And that's the Pope saying that, like, Spain has all the New World. And he was to explore them for the crown. He gathered a great group of noble knights and adventurers and sent them out into the desert. Following the maps made by Sheila Bright Eyes, they found Kursag. To their dismay, the people of Kursag, the Summerlanders, would not honor the negotiation with Sheila Bright Eyes. Would not honor the negotiation with Sheila Bright Eyes without Sheila Bright Eyes and her child present in Kursag. It seemed they wanted to hold her and her son hostage. Although good Prince Richard would never allow any of his people to be held hostage, Sheila Bright Eyes said that she would make the great sacrifice because of her love of the prince and the good queen. And so, Sheila Bright Eyes, the gnome, and her child were voluntarily brought to Kursag to act as translator, ensuring that we have a foothold in the Summerlands. Work for hire, Allah, yes. In the last 10 years, bold adventurers and knights and nobles have made the trek to Kursag as a staging ground for their grand explorations. They hire locals to bring them into the ruins and carry their supplies. A number of our nobles can now claim to be the first person ever to climb to the top of some of these ziggurats. We have begun trade with the Summerlanders, and Kursag has become an important extension of the Kingdom of Avonlea. Lord Kilgane, son of Baroness Bethery, took a contingent of knights with him to Kursag. He is now ambassador to the Summerlands and protector of Kursag and the people of Avonlea who now live there, which is not many, mostly some scholars and adventurers. Prince Richard has also just completed construction of a permanent road between Kursag and the westernmost village of the West Marches, Troy. He's also constructing a great museum where all the most impressive treasures from the Summerlands will be kept. It will be a wonder of the world. A great era is now beginning, and Prince Richard will show that out of all the princes of Avonlea, he will be the one most qualified to be named successor to the throne of Avonlea, because the Queen has not named a successor, all very King Lear style. She likes to keep them, you know. And to all you bold adventurers, do not be fooled by the calls of the other princes. There is nothing nearly as exciting as exiting in the... There's nothing nearly as exciting... there's nothing nearly as exciting... that's what that word is. Exciting. There's nothing nearly as exciting in the other marches or over the sea. Come to Troy. Then make the journey to the primitive Kursag in the Summerlands and make your fortune. Those who help uncover the mysteries of the Summerlands and claim his treasure will be favored greatly when the prince becomes king, as he surely will. With your help, Avonlea needs you. Troy, period, capital. So, here's the thing I want to tell you. So, what I wanted to tell you was, the players will not be adventurers from Avonlea. That is actually not the campaign at all. That is not what the players are going to be. Are you excited? The players will not be going to the Summerlands to... There is a twist. You wanted a twist, eh? So let me read to you the last thing that I wrote. So it's important to note that the first two pieces are done with scribes, like scribal hands. This last piece is done with movable type. Excerpt of an in-progress history of the eastern outposts of the Summerlands by Karposh the Seer, with annotations by Ambassador Sheila Bright Eyes. The Summerlands has been an advanced civilization for thousands of years. It is currently in its 5th kingdom, the 21st dynasty. Far, far to the west is the capital of the 5th kingdom, Ulak. It lies upon the Silver Sea and is a great port city with relationships with many different places across the sea lands. There's an annotation by Sheila Bright Eyes, the gnome. These are all places the people of Avonlea have never even heard of. The history continues. The capital of the First Kingdom, Mu, was actually quite close to the Avonlea Valley, though no one ever went that way back then as there was nothing particularly interesting to see there. Some great calamity befell the First Kingdom, and it was destroyed, all of its great cities cursed and swallowed by the sands. Scholars believe that Mu did something to offend their gods, so much that the gods destroyed them. The Second Kingdom moved westward, called to by new gods, who blessed each successive kingdom. As it became clear that the cities of the First Kingdom remained restless, spewing forth undead and demons, and other creatures that rise and rise again, each successive kingdom each successive kingdom moved further and further west until we reached the Silver Sea. Did they eat too many hamburgers? Ooh. The founder of the first dynasty of the 5th Kingdom, God Regent Gilgara, knew that we Summerlanders could not continue to ignore that threat, the threat of the ruins of the First Kingdom any longer. And so they called for all of the rulers, Ensi and Lugal of the city-states, to call forth their bravest heroes. These heroes, these heroes went out into the desert and built a series of outposts to surround the cursed ruins of the First Kingdom. In each outpost would be stationed an honor spear and an honor shield and their families. The honor spear would be tasked with striking down the creatures that spawned from the depth of the ruins when they emerged from their cursed pits, so they would not threaten the rest of the Summerlands. Spawned, emerged, past tense here, would. The honor shield made up the support for the outposts. It is not the most glamorous duty, but it is important, and so it has been for the 1,527 years of the 5th Kingdom. We are... Oh, no, Nugget, you can definitely be here. I'm just reading out the handouts that you have in the green room, so absolutely hang out. And then something changed. In the most remote outpost, Kursag, and then our gnome says, which translates to something like last outpost in our language. 10 years ago, strangers from the east stumbled out of the desert. They were from some sort of primitive kingdom over a mountain range east of the cursed desert. They had an honorable gnome with them by the name of Sheila Bright Eyes, who asked for asylum from her pursuers. We, of course, granted it, but she needed to return to her home to retrieve her child, who was being held hostage. She went back to her captors and did not return initially, but her captors did. We wished to honor our agreement with Sheila Bright Eyes, and our captain of the Honor Shield had an audacious idea. We demanded that Sheila Bright Eyes with her child be returned to us, and in exchange we would let the Avonians also camp at our outpost. I have thoughts about those lore notes. History is definitely written by the victors. It definitely is. The Avonians have an inexplicable desire to explore the cursed ruins. Our captain, Falana, knows that it is forbidden by our gods to enter into the cursed ruins, but the Avonians have no such prohibition, at least as far as we can tell. So Captain Falana hatched a plan. She believed that we could not always wait outside of the ruins waiting for the horrors to escape. We had to go into the ruins to find the source of the curse and to see what could be done to set it right. Our current god queen, Lydia, would not approve, but it is better to ask forgiveness than permission. And so far, the greater gods have not expressed displeasure. She asked for volunteers to undergo a ritual to detach themselves from our gods and ask the protection of the gods of the old First Kingdom, beseeching for permission to enter the ruins. Very few have chosen to become the resurrected, but some have, and permission to enter the ruins has been granted by the old gods. I should probably capitalize old gods all the time. Their mission from the captain, I'm gonna upload a corrected version of this. Their mission from the captain is to act as guides for the Avonians as they explore the ruins. The Avonians then may kill all the horrors in the ruins, and the resurrected would work to learn as much as possible about what happened to curse the First Kingdom. News of the expeditions in Kursag and some of the greatest scholars and heroes, though. News of the expeditions in Kursag spread throughout the kingdom. Empire spread throughout the empire. And some of the greatest scholars and heroes, though usually not the ones most in favor at court, as they tend to be forward and unorthodox thinkers, have come to Little Kursag. We are in the middle of nowhere, but we have some great fighters and magic users and druids, and so forth, here, learning from and training the resurrected. Trade is happening between Avonlea and the Summerlands, and now merchants and not just military logistics caravans are coming to Kursag. It is becoming something special. Using the Avonians for their gleeful, stupid recklessness and desire to enter into cursed spaces. And it began well. They brought in a contingent of warriors and act as if... and it began well, but didn't stay that way. They brought in a contingent of warriors and act as if they owned the place. We quickly learned the bloodthirsty Avonians mostly seemed to be interested in looting, taking some of the most sacred objects of the First Kingdom with them back to their kingdom. This has caused some unrest in Kursag. While the captain and most of our leadership have argued that these artifacts are sacred to the old gods, not our new gods, and that they are cursed, and any curses they might bring with them will only fall on the Avonians, some of the people of Kursag, including some of the people who are descendants of the peoples of the First Kingdom who have come to live here, argue that the Avonians are stealing our history and that this can't be allowed. Falana has made a compromise. The resurrected are to take the new and inexperienced Avonians to one particular ruin, one that spawns horrors, but that no longer has any valuable items in it. This way, these Avonians, who seem to be adventure tourists, can have an adventure, come out with some pottery shards as souvenirs, but also help thin the horrors. We have chosen the lesser red ziggurat of the Lost Well for this purpose. More experienced Avonian adventurers wish to explore less explored ruins. For them, we bring them to ones of lesser importance and try to avoid bringing them to the most sacred and important ziggurats. And the Avonians pay us to be their guides, not realizing that we are their minders. So far, it has been working out. But for how long now that more and more Avonians seem to keep arriving at Kursag? And that is the last a bit from the Summerlander history. And yes, so the players, God Queen, I missed it. There's a good queen over in Avonlea, but the Empire of the Summerland is sort of based off of ancient Sumerian Babylon, Egypt also. So the Summerlands are basically Egypt, Sumeria, and Babylonia, sort of smushed together, inspired by like the Gobi Desert, the Pacific, the Mojave Desert, and in those ways they had god kings and god queens. So like each ruler of these sort of city-states were also sort of quasi-divine, theoretically, you know. So the players are going to be either resurrected, right? These Summerlander adventurers who are going to sort of take the British, the Avonian tourists into these ziggurats. Or if they want to be, they can also be Avonians who were once like promissories, Avonians who live full time in Kursag. So you could either be like basically like an underclass Avonian, or you can be one of the resurrected. So you're going to be these groups of people who have to deal with Avonian tourists, basically. Yeah. So basically, anybody who lives permanently in Kursag can be is what you can be as a PC. Basically, like the Egyptian pharaohs, already, yes, right? So the Egyptian pharaohs were also thought of as like gods. They weren't gods, but you know, right? So that's the setup. Yeah, werewolf fields. So basically, one of the other things that was like my inspiration, and I'm going to tell the players this, so not you can certainly hear this, was I was thinking about how, you know how they said that like the very first, like what's his face was the very first person to reach the top of the Himalayas. Well, not really divine right of kings, because divine right of kings is like God says this that you are the king, but this was the idea that they actually were sort of gods themselves, ish. But I was thinking about how like those British adventurers, what's his face, went to the top of the Himalayas. Was the first person to ever reach the top of the Himalayas, but he had Sherpas with him, right? And they clearly also were there as well, but nobody counts them as being important. So I was thinking about that. I was thinking about the British Museum. I was thinking about going into the desert and just like Indiana Jones just robbing things. And I was thinking about the idea of like, oh, the primitive society. But I was like, but Egypt was not a primitive society. Actually, Egypt made you look embarrassing, right? So the idea being that you have this huge empire of the Summerlands, and the closest one to Avonlea basically got cursed, right, and abandoned, and then the capital of each successive kingdom of the Summerlands sort of moved further and further west until you get... So, and in my mind, I don't know if the players will see it, probably not, but I know it, that if you go to the far west, where the capital of the current fifth kingdom is, far west, Ulak. It is on the coast of like a Mediterranean kind of coast, and it is this huge city that is like, it's got movable type printing presses. It's like amazing. It's like Constantinople. It's this really cool advanced place. It's also, I'm also thinking about China, right? So like I'm thinking about all those civilizations, like how the British et al. Were like, everybody else besides us, they're so primitive, but yet meanwhile, China has all this technology for a couple, like hundreds of years, centuries before England got it. So like, if you go to the center of the empire, you're going to see all this amazing advancement that the people from Avonlea have not even imagined yet. But we're not at the far west of the Summerlands. We're at the far east of the Summerlands, on the other end, so like if you think of the big Summerlands, right? You've got the Summerlands, and then there's this strip of area, which is pretty bad desert where all these ruins of the First Kingdom are, where monsters spawn regularly because something's happening to keep these monsters spawning. And they created these outposts all around the borders of the old First Kingdom. And so Korsag is the farthernmost eastern little outpost, a little podunk nobody outpost that's not even the most important one. The players are all going to be there. So if you were the Avonians and you came across and you thought that this one little outpost was like all of the Summerlands culture and technology, you would think, and also if you're racist, you would think a lot of things about them that are just not actually true at all, because you're just seeing like a really small little outpost village, basically. Like Columbus being the first person to set foot in the Americas, absolutely. Like Columbus being the first person set in the Americas, absolutely. The far west of a massive spider automaton. Are the cigarettes actually landing platforms for alien spacecrafts? No, but they're there. And so there's one more, you can tell the tourists because they have an artist and their entourage in tow to paint pictures in order to make their neighbors jealous when they return home, right? So I think what you've got is, so the players are going to be level 1, right? They're level 1 PCs. Who knows how many will die, but we've got a whole outpost here, so if they die, they can make new ones. So just some logistics. In AD&D 1E, you cannot train unless you have somebody of a higher level to train you, or you can do it by your own, but it's like very slow. No gold. But so because of this stuff, Korsag now has high-level trainers. So you can go and adventure, come back to Korsag and level up, right? Because you have these high-level trainers, which is cool, because this is an outpost where people are like, look, there's a mystery. Like, why are there horrors spewing from these ruins of the First Kingdom? What happened to the First Kingdom? But the people of the Summerlands were like barred from going in because cursed. So they're like, well, let the Avonians go in. Let them go in there and deal with all the curses and kill our monsters for us. But we need to have people there to make sure they don't like desecrate too much badness. And so our PCs will be those minders who are going to go in with them and take them into these. They're going to be the retainers and Sherpas who take these tourists through these ziggurats and these ruins. But also secretly, they have this really important job, which is to find out what happened, right? To see if they can learn the secrets of what happened to the First Kingdom, but also kind of like manage are Avonians, right? They're going to manage those Avonians. And I think that there is, when it comes to tension in politics, here's the tension. You can't just kill them in the desert, because there is a contingent of Avonian knights in Kursag, and it's not that far to, like, if there's like let's just say there's an important person from Avonlea who wants to go on his safari, because that's what's happening, right? They're going on safari to loot things. You can't just kill them, because if somebody who's really important dies, that could bring tension and trouble. So you have to kind of keep them alive. Some less important Avonians, unfortunately, it's so annoying. The Avonians who come now are all like the fourth child of some noble. Do you know what I mean? They're all very annoying, maybe not as competent as they really could be, tourists. And you've got to keep them alive, but also make sure they don't steal too much. Tourist herders with a side gig of archaeology. Yeah, basically, right? They're tourist herders with a side gig of archaeology. Now, I think there's what I think is interesting is that I've built in a little bit of a tension, which is the people who are from, but these ziggurats are very dangerous places. It's true. These ziggurats are very dangerous places, and accidents do happen. So if sometimes you lose some people who might be especially annoying, that sometimes does happen. And what can you do about it? You know what I mean? But trade is happening, and people don't want to, people want to keep that relationship with Avonlea sort of friendly enough. So there's a lot of management. But one of the things I think is really interesting, which came to me a little bit later, is this tension, right? So that the first kingdom worship the old gods, which are basically Sumerian gods. Well, the fifth kingdom, by the way, I'm really inspired by the timelines of ancient Egypt and Babylon and Sumeria, where thousands of years, Avonlea has been around for 200 as a kingdom for 225 years maybe. And the Summerlands have been populated, I'm really thinking Tigris-Euphrates Valley, right? That kind of a thing. They've been populated for thousands and thousands of years. The Summerlands have been an empire for thousands and thousands of years. And the first kingdom I'm really sort of inspired by ancient Egypt here, right? The first kingdom was so long ago, right? And they had the old gods, sort of Sumerian gods, and something happened. That place got destroyed, but the people, right, still continue to live. They move forward. People fall, don't get up. It just happens. Where it was this is a really cool world and concept, right? You're intrigued. I know. I will just point out, audience, that I did ask Worrell Fields if he would be in the game, but he couldn't do it this summer, and I'm so sad because I really wanted him in the game. I thought he would like it. I thought he would really enjoy this, so I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to flip the paradigm, but that's okay. I'll just get you later. But here's the tension that I wanted to build in, because I thought this was really interesting. So there was, I've been in a pyramid, so I'm also very excited about Egyptian, right? Yes. Oh, look, next time. Okay, good, I got you. I don't think the Summerlands are going anywhere, so, one of the things I thought was, he's gymming on Friday, so he can't do it right now, but I'll get him later. But one of the things I thought was really cool, though, in my mind that I wanted to build in was that the first kingdom, Mu, right, have the Sumerian gods. We'll change them up a little bit. And then with this big destruction, the people who sort of survived across sort of end up adopting the Babylonian gods. And there's this discussion of the Babylon, it's Sumer is to Babylon as Greek is to Roman when it comes to gods. So there's a connection to them, but a different sort of shift. But one of the things I thought would be really interesting was that one of the reasons why the people there didn't, sorry, I wanted to bring up one thing. So Greater Zimbabwe is this archaeological site in Zimbabwe. And it's this amazing archaeological site. It's got all these cool things. And when the British colonized it, they said, I wonder who built this amazing archaeological site. Who could have built it? It certainly couldn't be the people who live here, because they're so primitive. And so who knows who built it? And they thought that maybe one of Jesus's disciples came down here and built it, maybe in the ancient times, or maybe it was the Temple of Solomon. They had a lot of theories about how anybody but the people from Zimbabwe could have built this place. And so then it was who knows? So they brought there was this British woman who was an archaeologist, and they brought her in. Oh yeah, the Brits, this is why you really have to take some older texts with a bit of salt, or a whole bunch of salt. So they brought in this British woman who was an archaeologist, and they said, could you go and like do archaeology on this site to figure out who would have built it. And she's like, sure. And so she did. And she's like, well, the people of this place built it. And they're like, what? And she's like, well, if you notice, here's some like some woven baskets or whatever, and it's the exact same basket weaving technique as the people here who live in this area. If you look at the architecture, yes, this is all stone, and their architecture is not made of stone, but it's the same architectural principles. So hey Hawkeye, so the people from Zimbabwe built Greater Zimbabwe, and here's all my evidence. And then it was still called Rhodesia at the time. The colonizers were like, What did you say the evidence was? And she's like, here, these baskets. They destroyed it all. They kicked her out, and they made it illegal to say that Greater Zimbabwe was built by people from Zimbabwe. And they put out the idea that nobody knows who built this. It could have been aliens. Who knows? Nobody knows who built it, right? When the people were right there. So I thought about that, and I was thinking that it would be interesting if most of the people at Kursag are Summerlanders from like the 4th, 5th, like the later kingdoms who've moved here, but that there would still be people, maybe like Berbers, that kind of a thing, who are still descendants of the First Kingdom. And they also now live in Kursag as well. Like they also kind of like stay in Kursag. No, it can't be. These people are too primitive, so we're going to go with aliens. That's so much more reasonable. So what I wanted to sort of build up was this sort of tension of, you've got these ruins. We don't know why the First Kingdom fell, but monsters keep spawning out of these ruins. Now, the ruins are so far away from the center of the empire now that you don't have to worry about it too much, but they do want to try to contain it. But the ruins are cursed. These are ruins to the old gods, and they're cursed. So the current Summerlanders are like, we can't go into those ruins because they're not our gods and they're cursed, but we'll be on the outside and kill anything that comes out. But we'll let the Avonians go in and take all the curses. That's fine. And right. I've not read the Belgariad and the Malorian. Do I need to? Can you put links? I should. Give me links. So I wanted to bring up this tension, right? So if the British are coming in, the Avonians are coming in and stealing all this stuff out of these ziggurats, I wanted there to be an interesting tension with the Summerlanders. And that tension would be Summerlanders that are not descended from the First Kingdom. I think the majority of them think they're stealing a bunch of stuff from these ziggurats, but these are not ziggurats to our gods, and they're cursed. So I guess it's okay if they take this stuff because it's not, I think it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, they're probably just cursing themselves anyway. David Eddings only has one story that he keeps telling with slightly different details. Oh, I should know about it. So I thought there's like but there's an interesting world building around the story. Oh, I want to see it. No one wants to admit the obvious. People in the past were much smarter than you think they were. Of course they were much smarter. Like, obvious, you know. Yes, the David Lee Eddings, complicated writers, and while the books are good, there's some accusations that difficult. See that more. So I'm thinking that the center of power in the Summerlands basically are like, well, I think a lot of the Summerlandians are like, well, if they want to go in there and kill monsters for us, okay, they are not, is there going to be any wrath of any old gods? It's not going to fall on us, right? It's going to fall on them. And they're stealing artifacts, but they're not our artifacts, so I guess it's okay. But then I also think there's another faction of people from the Summerland, most of whom are actually descendants from the First Kingdom, who are like, wait a minute, though, this actually is our history, right? Because we're from this area of the Summerlands, and we don't want them taking our history. And they probably still also worship the old gods. And so I think there's like an interesting tension between different groups of the Summerlanders about whether or not it's okay for the Avonians to be taking stuff from these ziggurats. And I think that there are some people who are not descendants from the First Kingdom, but who are just scholars and archaeologists who also don't want their stuff being taken because they want to learn these things themselves. So I think that you've got to get some kind of interesting politics around the presence of the Avonians, the use of the Avonians, and what they're doing in the ruins and the ziggurats. That will give some interesting like politics there. I think will be fun. And then you've got basically former promissories, people who are now living full time in Kursag from Avonlea, who basically escaped Avonlea. They're like, Avonlea sucks. We hate the Queen. She's not that good. We hate Prince Richard. He's not that great. And we can come to the desert. We can be in Kursag, and these people have welcomed us. And this is a place where we can be safe. And I think that the Summerlanders see Sheila Bright Eyes as the ambassador and the people that they want to work with when it comes to the Avonians. But the Avonians do not recognize her as an ambassador. They recognize some random noble as the ambassador to the Summerlands. Also, I think there's a bit of a... the Avonians kind of think that Kursag is theirs, but it is not theirs. So like, I think there's some kind of... And also, I decided to make a executive decision about language that the Avonian, so there's, you know how there's in AD&D 1E, they're all basically the racial language from the different peoples. We'll keep all that, but there's common, and I actually think there's more than one common. There's the Avonian common, and there's also the Summerlanders common, and they are not mutually intelligible. So if you speak Avonian, you do not understand the Summerlanders. And I'm going to say in this world that what we think of as common is basically the Summerlanders' tongue, because the Summerlanders have, like, they've opened up access to like half the inside of the Hollow World, right? So what we think of as common is like the trade language of the Summerlands. So that's the common, and the Avonians don't speak that common; they speak their own common. So there's two different commons, and you know, a lot of the Avonians don't speak the language of half the globe. You know how it is. AP is also pretty important to note that while these accusations are pretty credible, portions of the accusations include things that are easily disprovable because of court documents that don't exist. Oh, this is really interesting. I need to know more about this. Prax says, so there were really public in adopting kids and adopting across races, and some reports came out about some really bad abuse, but including those reports, Art says, hey, we can prove that at the trials, those trials never happened. Those trials don't exist. So I always tell people, your mom's family, oh, this is really interesting. Thank you. So I'd agree, common being so common and the same across all these cultures can be good for easier gameplay, but in verisimilitude, it is strange. Although what I would say that we actually do have common right now. It's English, right? And I think for a while, common was French, and then before that, it was Latin. And so I kind of think that you probably would have common that would take you across a whole bunch of cultures, but it probably wouldn't take you across. I mean, I would imagine you basically have like maybe 2 or 3 big commons, right, in the world, right? And I would also imagine that everybody also has a local language, right? So yeah, lingua franca common and is usually the trade language. Absolutely, right? So I kind of think, but that also means that, so a lot of people who are native English speakers don't speak other, if they're Americans, don't speak other languages, so they just only know common. But I would imagine a lot of other places also know common / English. At one point in time, the big lingua franca were like what, Russian, English, and Mandarin. The 3 big lingua francas, right? Yeah, it's been in proximity, trade, cultural similarities. Yeah, basically, you can imagine, like, I would imagine, like, in my mind right now, there are at least 2 big zones of influence. Avonlea does have a common, but they were moving. So I haven't built the map of the continent yet, but I'm imagining that Avonlea has got all these mountains around them, and they have access to the Northeast Sea. And there's probably like another thing. So they are probably heading off eastward for all of their exploration and not heading westward. So there's like they've got a sphere of influence that heads east from where they're at. And then the Summerlands are part of like a really large sort of like Mediterranean sort of sphere of influence that's going to be heading west. So there are at least 2 main commons. There may be a third, but I don't know yet because that is further off the map than we need to worry about, I think. Carl says, common makes sense from an English-speaking person's perspective, but English being the closest thing to a global common is a pretty recent development. Yeah. And Artie says, what are you talking about? What you're talking about sounds similar to the way the Kell are portrayed in the books as very rural people living in mud huts, but it is actually an act as the Kell are very advanced, and they just use the guise of being rural to avoid attention from the major powers. Ah, so here's the thing about the mud huts. I've been, again, I knew the talk was going to happen. I've been looking at random websites about building your homes using Adobe or Cobb, 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 and the discussion of basically that Adobe Cobb houses, I think, Cobb, using these things actually is, if you're in certain climates, it's actually just better. It's cheaper because you can make the materials just there. And it has better for heating and cooling. And that basically these styles of houses are really good. And they are better than some other styles of houses. Not so good for earthquakes, depending on how you build them right. And so I was thinking, I want to build a Cobb house. I'm not going to, but I want to. And then I was looking at all these really cool Cobb houses and Adobe houses. And I was like, right. The people of the Summerlands would build using Adobe and Cobb and things like this, obviously, right? That's how they'd build their houses. And so I could imagine the Avonians thinking, oh my gosh, how primitive. But they're not. They've got, this is actually, mud is a very good building material for desert, drier climates, right? So that, of course, they're not actually primitive at all. This is just the way you should build a house in this area, right? Artie's like, yeah, which is why in my world, I also separated common from human, which are separate languages, as it wouldn't make sense that human would be the common language. Yes, Artie, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I just really kind of wanted to flip that sort of like the Tomb Raider thing on its head. And I wanted to give a kind of a sense of, I don't think this is a spoiler to say that our PCs are going to have to deal with some Avonian tourists in their first adventure. And what I need to do, I haven't done this yet, but what I need to do is create a map. By the way, I'm going full on, hey, PP Plays Inside, I'm going full on AD&D 1E here, where if the players go into a dungeon, I'm not giving them a map, they're going to have to map themselves or they might get lost, right? Because it's a unexplored dungeon, full on AD&D 1E. However, what I do need to do is I need to build, these huts are more built to appear simple and play in the area. Oh, that's nice. But what I need to do is I need to actually make a map of that small ziggurat, the tourist ziggurat, because the players would have that map themselves. They'd actually have the map because the Summerlanders have fully explored, right, in the process of fully explored that particular ziggurat. And so I want to give the players this, I have to make it still, get this map that they, as their PCs, would actually have, which is the map to the ziggurat that they take the fresh newbie tourists. And so their first adventure is going to be taking some fresh newbie tourists into this ziggurat that they have been to multiple times before. That's their first little baby dungeon, which is to take these Avonian tourists, or probably wearing armor too heavy for them. They should, you don't need to be wearing that in the desert, but it's fine. Right, these Avonian tourists into this, into the ziggurat that they all know about it already. So I need to make the map for that ziggurat because the players would have that map. That is the next prop that I need to make, which I hope I can make today, so I can give it to the players. So Nugget gets to babysit some spoiled nobles. Yeah, just a little bit babysitting a little bit of spoiled nobles as they go into their baby ziggurat to go and have their exciting safari adventure. And the players, the very first thing they're going to be doing is taking some spoiled nobles into a baby ziggurat and trying to keep them alive, thinning out some of the monsters that spawn there. But I do need to make the map because they would have the map. Other maps, they'll have to make themselves as they go exploring into other ziggurats, because I will tell you that baby ziggurat will not be the only dungeon they'll be exploring in this campaign. That's all I'm saying. But they get to start off by accompanying some spoiled tourists to a baby ziggurat right away, which I don't think is a spoiler. I just think that you just need to know it's going to happen. Note to them, learn cartography. Yep. Full plate in Midsummer Heat is always a smart move. Volus, you are correct. Full plate, lots of chainmail plate, thick armor. Very good times, smart ideas. Dungeons in my Dungeons and Dragons. We won't blame you if some of them run into accidents. And I'm so excited because they're gonna. I'm just okay. You'll just have to wait till we get there because these are gonna be the best nobles ever. And what's really great about these nobles is that they're like they're strivers because they're not as important as they'd like to be. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like nobles who are not as important as they'd like to be are really the best nobles to babysit. Really, they're so good because they have got such a good attitude. And that's what I'm going to say about that. So I'm super excited. I'm super excited about this like flipped world where because the thing is like they are like they're the fifth sons of their family, you know. Yeah. Sure. Says like sure, they're the best. They're the best to deal with. Yeah, and so the thing is, right, in this world you have to go like dungeon delving all the time. So like what would be a good excuse to dungeon delve all the time? And I was like, oh, well, if you have this and like one of the other tropes of D&D is or like basically D&D is a post-apocalyptic world. You have all these like ruins. And I was like, well, that would be like some of the ancient sites that people have like, we're looking at the age of like tomb raiders and archaeologists. And I was like, okay, so I think this will be really good. We'll be getting the players going into these dungeons with these annoying people, because who doesn't like annoying people? I like them. Max says, I'm editing RPG Journal and watching puppies. So Mitch Muth says, how are you giving your players all this information? Well, they have the three things that I read out, that I just gave it to them. They have, hold on. Give me a second. Hold on. Let me do this so I don't miss it. Wait. Where are you? There. Wait. Here? Wait. So, right here, right now in Twitch clip format, is this campaign going to be streamed? It is. It starts in 2 weeks. So it's the Friday. It is the summer campaign. I've just accepted that the summer break for Traveler, the Gamblers, is pretty long enough for me to actually get in a full season of something in the summer. So we're going to be starting this in 2 weeks. So Friday after next in Twitch. Yes. Oh yeah. Okay. So here is, I think I can show this to you. Whoop. So what I have done is I have given the players the three. And I think I'm going to give this to the Patreons because I like to give props to Patreons when I make them. Hold on. Hold on. So this here, whoop, is the prop that I made. This here is the history as written by the royal scholar for the Queen. So they have this prop right here. This is written by the Queen's scholar. This is the history of Avonlea. Oops. No. Wait. And then this one here is the history of the mysterious West. Different font because it's a different scribe, but it's the same style of book, which is parchment and scribes. Whoop. And this is the one about the mysterious East, written by the Prince's scholar. Right, so that's the Prince's scholar. That's theirs. Isn't that a Ravenloft domain? I'm bummed if I'm being forced to pick between Trooper and War with Summer. You can do both. Just get some VODs. You can watch me in VOD. And then the last one I gave them was a history of the outposts by the Summerlanders, one of the Summerlander scholars. And that's this one here. And so this one here is in movable type. Because the Summerlanders have the printing press now. the people from the Avonians do not have the printing press, but the Summerlanders do indeed have the printing press. Don't worry about it. And so here is the Avonian prop, right? This is an in progress. I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see it. These are really huge JPEGs that are big, but that's fine. And whoop, here you go. Such a nice book. So, and so I have those three, and the players have them now. I dropped them in the green room. I am going to, in the show Bible, oh, you can't see me right now. Hold on. There we go. In the show Bible itself, I'm going to actually do a plain text version of these so that people don't have to read handwriting. But they have those three documents, and no Comic Sans. Who's the cast? Are there pamphlets all over? There are pamphlets all over the Summerlands. So just not that many out in Kursag because you're out in the middle of nowhere. I guess I can announce the cast because we've got 2 weeks. I'm waiting on headshots so I can actually do big announcements, but I can tell you. So Nuggetosaurus will be playing. PB Plays Inside will be playing. Laugh Love Lindy will be playing. Wandering DM will be playing. And we have a fifth player who I'm also super excited about. Ezra Denny will be playing. And Ezra Denny, this is one of the reasons why I wanted him. I'm so excited. I asked him. He said yes. Ezra Denny was one of the people I played D&D with when I was in middle school who was cool, right? There was a group of theater kids that I did theater with, and they were like my good pals. And we played D&D. It was like the only AD&D campaign that was fun for me because it was a bunch of theater kids. And I got accidentally, so Ezra Denny reached out to me to do an interview on his channel. He did not realize that it was me because I have changed a bit since middle school. And so I'm doing this interview with him, and we're doing the interview, and we're talking about our early days, and we realized actually that we were best friends back in middle school. And we didn't recognize each other, so that was pretty amazing. And he's going to be in this campaign as well, so I'm really excited about that. So it's going to be Laugh Love Lindy, Wandering DM, Nuggetosaurus, PB Plays Inside, and then Ezra Denny as the 5 adventurers playing this game. And I'm so excited. Does the full version have knights fighting giant snails? This is what we need to know. So that's really cool to me. And I'm really excited about it. And so right now, the documents have been given to the players, although I need to update them because I caught some. Thank you for letting me read these out to you because I caught some typos. I will fix them, re-upload them. That'll be fine. And it's so good. It's so good. And then I need to make the map, like the map that they have to go into that one ziggurat so that they have it. And I have finished my lines and veils and call sheet, but I haven't linked it to them yet. What I need to do today is my goal is to get that ziggurat map and then to make the show Bible. Because to answer your question, Max Ryder, about how do they get this stuff, unless you want to leave the typos for verisimilitude, but some of them were typos for me, and I was like, oh wait, some of them are yes, but some of them no. But I always give, for like any kind of like more significant campaign, I always make a show Bible, and the show Bible includes tech info, character creation info, like the pitch, right? The pitch, there's like a pitch, which is like, you are not playing these Knights of Avonlea, you'll be playing the Resurrected and the Promissories who are doing this. Like I give them the pitch of like what what they'll be doing as characters. I have a show Bible, and that show Bible has the pitch. It's got tech data of like the dates, times. It has a space for them to put in their name, their handle, right? What their PayPal email is so I can pay them, right? All that sort of like the data so I can do the overlays. Then I have in that, usually I will also have some setting info that they might need to know. It's like there are 2 types of like what you need to know about the world and what you need to know about your character, right? So about the world, I will link plain text versions of those documents, and I'll put anything else about the world they might need to know. I'll probably add a director's commentary to this one about some of the inspirations that I'm thinking about. Like the Summerlands are like the Gobi Desert, the Syrian Desert, the Mojave Desert. Avonlea is like the Black Forest and like England before it was deforested, right? Like to kind of give them like the vibes of what they're thinking about the world, you know, and then so world and then characters, character creation stuff, which would include things like what books we're using, what rules we're using or not using. For example, we're Player's Handbook. We're using the core, right? Player's Handbook, monster, like for the Player's Handbook, Unearthed Arcana, but in Unearthed Arcana, we're not using comeliness. In the Player's Handbook, we're not using strength restrictions based on gender. If you want to do that for yourself, you can, but I don't think that D&D is granular enough for that to even make any sense, so that's not going to be in there, but all the other stuff will be there. I do have one thing. I also have to work out this character sheet situation, but I have one thing that is really also have to work out this character sheet situation, because there is an AD&D 1E character sheet in Roll20 that is a little bit complicated to parse, and my understanding is that I can make it better with some add-ons, so I've got to go do some research on that and get that going. But I do have one big issue that I need to work out. Unearthed Arcana, are you using the Cavalier? It's super powerful and unbalanced. Absolutely using the Cavalier if they want it. And we are using level limits. We're doing it full on. Level limits, restrictions, class restrictions, like dwarves can't do magic. The whole thing, one of the whole points of this is to actually do AD&D, actually do it, because everybody talks about the old school Renaissance, but what they're talking about really, they just ignore AD&D completely. But it also came out at the same time as D&D Basic. And everyone talked about, like, back in the old school, it was like this. It was absolutely not like that. You're making stuff up. No, it was not. So we're doing the level limits. We're doing multi-classes versus dual classing. All of that ridiculousness that was AD&D 1E, we're doing it. Because I want people to experience AD&D 1E for reals, though. And also because I think people talk as if there's this habit that people like to get into, not everybody, where they think about things as like evolution, where like if a game comes out now, it's better than the game that came out 5 years ago, which is better than the game that came out 10 years ago, because we're all like old is bad, new is good, that kind of a thing. I ran AD&D for a small group at a con and did their pre-gens old school. We had to keep them in the Borderlands. Good time. Nice. Do any of your players know about the level limit stuff? I've talked to them about it, but I let them know that, you know, hit points are low. It's very deadly. You might die. Like and we're going to do all of our character creation on stream on the first session. Krell says, I never played at a table that used level limits for what it's worth, but I don't think I ever got to levels where it really mattered anyway. Old is bad, new is good. And I don't think old is good, new is bad, or vice versa. I just think it's different, right? I mean, I will say that AD&D 1E didn't have very good editing, but I don't think it's necessarily bad, right? I just think it is what it is. So I really want them to experience what it was like when you didn't have short rests, when you only healed 1 hit point a day through natural rest, when you had to pay money to level up. By the way, you're paying money to Kursag, which goes back. So like all these people who are leveling up are basically paying tribute, right? It's there's an economy going on there. I'm loving this, but I know you mentioned you had things to do today, so I don't know when you're planning on streaming till. I see you. Reading the Holmes D&D box set at 13, I was so confused. There's just some bad editing is what I'm trying to say. Thank you, by the way, Artie. We're gonna look at this brass jug. Is what we're doing. So I'm just really excited about doing for real, like the whole deal, right? With the sad hit points that you get, with encumbrance and tracking resources. After 2 hours Brassic, really? People often confuse the terms. I mean, it is the most advanced version of D&D. That's true. It's the most advanced. But I really like the idea of really, what do we have here? We are looking for the only thing we have that's got this in it. Boom. What about modifiers for certain weapons against certain armors? It'll all be put in the character sheet. We're gonna put it all in there. We got gameplay until I had to tell you things that were really important. Very important. So we're looking at cups, and also, what do we have here? It does not. Or the strength restrictions by gender are just flat out sexist. So we're just getting rid of that, since it's just a debuff for women. If there was some bounds involved, it might actually be a design choice, like when we get extra hit point per hit die to represent their high pain threshold. Right, exactly. But since we're not doing that, we're not doing it. I have no time for that. Also, I just don't think that D&D is granular enough for that. It was just sexism, and I just don't have time for it. So we're not doing it. That's that. And also, I will just point out that back in the day, I also didn't do it back then either. When I had those choices to make, I just didn't do them. I did not make those choices. I remember that was one of my house rules. I dropped that back in the 80s as well. I was like, nope, not gonna do that. We're missing something. What are we missing? This here. There we go. The racism and sexism are quite something in the system. Oh, they are. They are. Okay, so not cups. By the way, we're hanging out, doing this right now. It's good times. I think one of the other house rules that I made back then that I'm making right now still is that, and by the way, all these things that I'm talking about are in my show Bible. So when the players go and look at the show Bible, it'll be like, oh, okay, we're not doing the gender restrictions on strength. Also, sentient creatures do not have racial alignments. That's also just a no-go for me. I just say no to that one. Somewhere out there, Gary Gygax is on the record saying the racial level limits was explicit to make humans more desirable. Absolutely it was. I mean, it absolutely was. Although I do think it's actually really I will say I do think it's interesting, because people in the more modern D&Ds always complain that humans are boring. They don't do anything interesting at all. But if you go back to the older D&D, they actually do things that the demi-humans can't do. They dual class rather than multi-class. Like, there are actually more things about them besides an extra feat, right? So I think there is something interesting about. I think it'll be an interesting experience, is what I want to say. Yeah, I just largely got rid of alignment as well. Which is why there are no drow in my world, as they don't make logical sense and are so tied to racism. Oh, we're going to have drow and Drugar, but they're going to be really pale with big eyes, right? We're going to have underground elves and underground dwarves, but they're not going to be. Basically, a lot of the cultural stuff that's in D&D, we're dumping. But I did want to bring up something that I need your advice on. Because I'm going back and forth on this. I'm going back and forth on this really hardcore, and I don't know what I'm going to do about it. So I would like your advice. And the advice is this. It's about which books I'm using. Because that's what GMs do. They tell you what books you can use. So there are two different AD&D 1Es. Yeah, they look more like Skyrim's Falmer, absolutely. So there are two different AD&Ds. There's the AD&D before basically 86, 87, end of 86. So right around 86, 87 is when TSR put out the Vanilla Human or Talking Fungus with a Dark Vision, the Eternal Problem. My world has drow in the black lavender skin, light hair, silver light hair schema, but they're just a phenotype of elf, yeah. I've always liked the look of drow visually. I think that probably you're going to get your drow living on the surface, right? That look. So here's my question. So when it comes to AD&D, and this is actually really important in terms of my journey, that I played AD&D before what I'm going to call that sort of split that happens around 87, right before they go to 2E. And that split happens when they start putting out Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms guides. So the Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms guides come out in like 86, 87. And I was a player of AD&D basically before that happened. So I never had any attachment to Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk. Yeah, in my world, you could have the look, but they'd just be elves. Absolutely, right? So the thing is, that when people say, oh, well, Greyhawk was always the official setting, or the Forgotten Realms was always the official setting because of the gods. And I was like, oh, yeah, I was playing before that really developed, right? So we have the Book of Deities and Demigods. So I want to use the Egyptian gods. What do I want to do, right? So there was like it wasn't so tied to those settings so much. It was still pretty open, and you would just like pull modules and do whatever. But once the books, right, and then the Guide to Forgotten Realms, Guide to Greyhawk, those things come out in 86, 87. There's a bit of a different vibe that happens with AD&D. And then we get the Wilderness Survival Guide and the Dungeoneer Survival Guide. And this is the big question I need your advice on before we go. And I finish this thing, and it is this. If we stop basically in 85, 86, basically, right? Basically, Unearthed Arcana comes out the same year as the either Oriental Adventures or Dungeoneer Survival Guide. But Unearthed Arcana is basically compilations of stuff from Dungeon and Dragon magazine. So it's throwback, so it's fine. Mystara was the official setting for some of the early books, you dummies. I'm going to recuse myself. I played 1E prior to Forgotten Realms, but then ported 1E to Forgotten Realms in the early 2000s for a long campaign. Okay, but here's my question. There is this really important shift that happens, and that shift is that pre-Oriental Adventures, AD&D was one thing, and then they come out with Oriental Adventures and then port the stuff they did specifically non-weapon proficiencies they put that into the Dungeoneer Survival Guide. And that's when THAC0 starts creeping in for monsters. And what AD&D 1E becomes in 87, 88 is on its way to 2E. But before then, it's not. So the question I have that I have not, I'm really going back and forth on this. Like, I'm really dithering, really hardcore. It is, do I include the Dungeoneer and Wilderness Survival Guides as the allowable books for the campaign or not? If I include them, then the players have non-weapon proficiencies. If I don't, then they don't. So this is like a really big split in what AD&D 1E is like. And please note, when I said that 2E was really different from 1E, it's because I stopped playing. That's not true. I didn't have the money to buy the Dungeoneer Survival Guide and the Wilderness Survival Guide, so I didn't buy those. So I kind of basically kept in that pre-86 D&D. And then when 2E comes out, I was like, my gosh, this is so different. It is so different, which it really was. But the question is, do I include those two books or not? And I really go back and forth. And part of that back and forth has to do with character sheets. But what do you all think? Non-weapon proficiencies, yay or nay? So it's so good and adds value. I've never played A&D before, so I don't think I know, to be fair. No, non-weapon proficiencies are first edition, though, Krellin. That's the thing. They do exist in first edition. They're introduced in Oriental Adventures, and then they are changed a little bit, sort of refined, in the Dungeoneer and Wilderness Survival Guide, and those are first edition books. So, weapon proficiencies are in the original. It's up there from the very beginning. But the last two books, basically the last two big books of 1E, do have non-weapon proficiencies. Oh, you're making a value statement. I get you. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Here's the thing. I've been going back and forth on this, and I think I settled with not doing those last two books and not including the non-weapon proficiencies. That's what I was leaning towards. First E extended is what it was called at the time, Pavel corrected, right? So like, I did not extend. So I was basically torn, and really the only difference, if you bring really, there's just more crunch that comes out in those last two books, which are fine, but the big thing for players, for those extended books are cantrips and non-weapon proficiencies. I think those are the two big things. And cantrips are not what you think. I mean, people who've played AD&D, People who have not played AD&D don't know. Cantrips are not what you think they are. There are some really small, not particularly useful spells that you can give up one first level slot for 4 cantrips, basically. It's a 4-to-1 ratio. But they do, right? Yeah, so I was leaning to, here's what I'm telling you. I was leaning towards not including not including those last two books, and not including non-weapon proficiencies, because then we get to use the classic character sheet, and it is just one fewer thing for the players to have to do. Right? But on the other hand, I guess there's some desert stuff, but I don't think you really need it, right? Non-weapon proficiencies led towards power gaming. Unless you're one of those people that didn't care about anything that wasn't combat, but Artie says the lunar elves would be more pale, but still nowhere near the traditional elves. Solar and lunar elves is a cultural thing, where lunar simply are nocturnal, as they're interested in studying things that are active at night and have their own settlements, so they don't miss out on family and other things that people working at night usually would. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I think my elves are going to be kind of tree-like. Let's see. We are missing some stuff here. What are we missing? I feel like they want us to add things. Not this. Here, we'll add this. There we go. I had a player that was a min-maxer, so I had to account for it. Hence my answer. I see you. What did we just... So no axe. I knew that. We're going to finish this thing before we go. I want you to know it. Gonna go watch the World Cup. Oh, Nugget. We'll talk. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed some of our little sneak peek into the Summerlands, which I got stuck last night trying to make a title screen for it, and I was like, this is not working for me, the title screen. I need to figure out what I want it to look like, because I've got a good picture of a ziggurat. Anyway, I'm trying to work it out. By the way, we're also going to end soon. Oh, hey, Cry. By the way, we're going to do a giveaway, so just make sure you say something in the next 5 minutes so you can be entered. Okay, so this is a brass jug. No weapon proficiency might lead to some attaching poisonous frogs between a rope and having frog nunchakus. Hey. Enjoy the World Cup. So my feeling was that I wasn't going to include them, even though I think there are probably some good deserty things, some deserty non-weapon proficiencies, but I do also think that it might be making a character in AD&D 1E is not the fastest, but it's not that slow because you don't have as many choices. If you know what I mean? Like, the reason why it's a little bit slow is because the book is not well organized. But it's not, you don't have that many choices, to be honest, as a first level character. And if they die a lot, then creating first level characters, having it go a little bit faster might be better. And non-weapon proficiencies increase that time. Yeah. Weapon proficiencies are core. I have enough games to play, so if I happen to win anything, re-roll it. Oh, okay, I will. I think this is going to be sailcloth, by the way, because of the... Wait. We have cup. We have something cup. We also have goblet. Yeah, this is a jug. So raise your goblet and cry... We have at, not at. What's the opposite of at? Raise your goblet and cry out? I think it's probably is cry out, but that's still weird. Cry to? Does raise your goblet and cry out work? Cry within? This comes from the same site as the effigy I found here early, I think. This should make the unknown extremely ancient site easier to find. So, you've seen it. The jug for your chip sculpture of the water-bearer goddess from Mercy. I will agree to this trade. You have a deal. I just want to finish talking to my good friend here. I'll be sorry to sell this one when the time comes. I'm going to show him. We're going to just deal with our artifacts, and then we'll do our giveaway, and then we'll go. I found a few more items you might be interested in. Oh, yes? Let's show the axe. Also, I need to go back to my friend. It's a hefty axe dating from ancient times. Yeah, raise my grass and cry out. I used to deal in those years ago, but they're common now. My dear, I prefer crystal and historical strange things, not junk. Wow. It will take me some time to set up buyers for what you've given me, so... If there's more, let me look another time when my eyes have recovered. Interesting, 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 interesting. Yeah, the only thing I should be crying is crying havoc. So, Tappy, I'm not going to be here long. Pity, but wise. I feel like, that's it. We're gonna go outside. Wait. That's a little better. And let's slip the dogs of war. Okay, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go outside. See you later, Toppy. Wrong voice. See you later, Toppy. Toppy. Don't get any less marvelous. Marvelous. Is he Ricardo Montalban? I think he might be. We're gonna set ourselves up for success by going right in front of our friend's house and then stopping right there. Just so you know. And then I'm gonna do a giveaway. Ooh, that bread looks really delicious. Ooh. Sorry, I was just thinking about how delicious that bread looks, and then I want some sourdough bread, in case you were curious. So, I've had enough of this place. Oh, that woman has vitiligo. That's cool. The bread lust hits hard times. It really does. Ooh. Okay, here's my friend's house, but we're going to end right here. And we're going to chat. I need to exit. And exit. Exit. Great. Exit. Boom. Exiting. Exiting. Okay, good. Now we're chatting. We're going to do a giveaway. I want to say thank you all for letting me read those props out to you all. Props. I will do my little fixes on them, and then it's a little complicated to do the fixes, but hopefully it won't involve too much rekerning. And then I will upload the fixed versions to my players, and then I will I need to make this map. Thank you, Prax. I'm glad you're excited. I'm going to make the map. I'm going to make the show Bible. I have a world map in my mind. I don't think they would have that yet, so I don't have to worry about it so much. But what I need to do, I need to make the show Bible. I need to make the ziggurat map. I need to update my props and reattach them for my players. I need to finalize what my title screen is going to look like so I can start making the advertisements. And I have an idea of what I want. I think I need some papyrus, but I'm not certain yet. It's not fixed. It's not finished in my mind what I want it to look like aesthetically, which is annoying. But I need to start making the advertisements, get it going, because I want to start announcing the players and get that going. But the big thing for me is there are a couple of things that I need to do when it comes to, all right, we've decided no non-weapon proficiencies. We're not using the Dungeoneer and the Wilderness Survival Guide. We're not doing it. We're going old school before the extended. This also does mean, however, it's really annoying, that the PDF of the character sheets is layered, which means you can't print it out without it being ridiculous unless you have the Adobe Reader Pro or whatever it is. And I've not given Adobe money, so I need to, and that's the only thing I found that will actually separate those layers out, which is really annoying. So I'm going to work it out. I've got to work out the character sheets. The professions are not in core AD&D 1E. That was, I know, stupid Adobe. I believe that there are professions that are included in the extended one. I think they're in, if they are in AD&D 1E at all, they're in the Wilderness Survival Guide and the Dungeoneer Survival Guide. In the Dungeon Master's Guide, you can roll up professions. They don't really do anything, just for NPCs. Yeah. See, Copper Glitch knows there were Yeah, but those are for NPCs, actually. Yeah, they are for NPCs. Although if players, they want to, I don't care. They can roll if they want. But yeah, I've got this Adobe problem because I want to give the players, I want to give the players a PDF of a character sheet in PDF in case they want to put their character sheet on paper in addition to the Roll20 sheet, because I think the Roll20 sheet's a little bit funky and it might be a little bit easier to have both, one for them and then one just in case. So I've got I've got to deal with the gods, because if we have anybody who's going to be a cleric, which there should be one, or else people will die, then I will need to kind of like work the gods out a little bit differently. Basically translate the Sumerian and Babylonian gods to work a little bit better. That's all. Yeah. Like Underwater Basket River Brewer. There is one other thing I wanted to tell you. Hold on. It was, wait. Yes, I know what it is. No cleric seems like an error, but that's a clerical error. Max says, I ran a second ed group with no cleric. It was such a pain. I brought an NPC named Cartman, who was like a halfling, just like the South Park character, who was a pain. So, but here's the thing. When people say, people are like, we didn't have session zeros back in the day, we don't need them now. We did have session zeros. And the session zeros were, who's going to play the cleric? Like, like we all rolled our characters together and we had to decide who's going to play the cleric, because you really did not want to have no cleric, is what I'm trying to say. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying that is not a thing that you would want. You really want a cleric, because otherwise you heal 1 hit point a day if you rest for full 24 hours. You want a cleric. But one more thing. Okay, one more thing before I do the giveaway. No, I'm going to do the giveaway right now, and then I'll tell you the thing in the midst of the giveaway. Let me find it. Those session zeros of RPR felt so fun. I know, Roller. I'm so excited for the next season of RPR, which will be in January. That is definitely a thing that's happening. We don't have our theme yet because we can't know until we get closer. We'll decide closer to the date what our theme will be, because we don't want to decide now, because, we're going to decide probably like in September. So let's see. What do we have that's expiring? We have things that are expiring. We have some things that are expiring July 1st. Yes. So January and July. Okay, so we are giving away I think that one's good. So, all right, we are giving away Etrian Odyssey 2 HD. I have something else to tell you. Clerics are like energy drinks. You could raw dog modern life with no stimulant, but it sucks. This is our first game that we're giving away. It is Etrian Odyssey 2 HD. Prax, you win this. I'm going to give this to Prax, because Etrian Odyssey 2 feels like a kind of an ancient thing, and I want to give it to Prax. And then we're going to give another away. I want to give it away now. So that was our July. We have some August, but don't have to worry about August yet. What else do we have coming up? We have some Septembers. Don't have to worry about that. August, Septembers. Let's see. Anything else we need to worry about? Let's go back. Oh, no. Okay, good. Prax, you're here. I'm going to give you this code right now. And then we're going to do 1, maybe 2 more giveaways, because I do need to do that. Where were you? January. Where did you go? There we go. I'm going to give you this code right now. Whoop. There we go. To you. And now we need to do... Etrian Odyssey is apparently almost 20 years old. Although, to be honest, I thought it was even older. That makes me feel old. Let's go back to some of our super old ones then. Let's do... I'm going to do some from 2020. And we're going to see if they still work, because I have codes. You're not as old as I am. I feel as old as you are. That's all I'm saying. So we're going to see if these codes still work. Nobody as old as Max. Krellin, would you take Darksburg, an indie action game? Krellin, let me know. Because I've got Darksburg, the indie action game, that I could give you. And also, we're going to do 2. We're going to do 3. Because I've got codes from 2020, and I need to get through them. This is going to be for Rover Mechanic Simulator. Prax already got one, so we're going to do a different one. Let's see. Oop. Winner. Copper Glitched. You are testing Darksburg, an indie action game that I got a code for some time ago. And by some time ago, I mean, I will send you the code. Let me know how it goes, because we need to get through these codes. I have too many of them, and I always forget to do giveaways. So this is for Darksburg. And Copper Glitched, I'm going to send you the code for Rover Mechanic Simulator. And we're going to see how this goes. Okay, Copper Glitched. Boop. Again, this is a code from a long time ago, and it should work, but, let me know. Okay. Woo. Excellent. I'm so excited. And let me just note that so I can delete those. Great. All right. So I think we have decided that we will not use the Dungeoneer Survival Guide and the Wilderness Survival Guide. So no non-weapon proficiencies. We're just going to go core AD&D 1E. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. That's it. That means I really am going to need to figure out how to. It's really annoying because somebody basically recreated they basically did the character sheets, but they did it in layers, and you can't print them unless you have the Pro. Well, but basically what I want to do is I want to export them to PDF, right? It's a PDF with layers all on one layer. And I would like to, so if you look at it, all of the classes are all just laid on top of each other. So it's a complete unusable sheet. But if you have Adobe Reader, Acrobat Reader Pro, or whatever it is, you can export to PDF and not all the layers there, but only if you have the Pro. If you have the regular, you can't. So I need to figure that out because I want the players to have a decent character sheet. Oh, good. The code worked. Yes. Oh, and Negs is streaming. Oh, this is great. Thank you, Artie. So we're going to raid. I want to say thank you all for being here. Thank you for hearing about this campaign that I'm really excited about coming up, the Summerlands. It will be in 2 weeks. I just need to work out my title. I need to work out my title screen so I can start doing the advertising and the thumbnails and the overlays. Like once I get a good title screen, then I can start making overlays and all of that. But I can't do it just yet because I have not decided on the aesthetic. I'm close, but I'm not there. So we'll be working it. There's a font that I need to download. It might be not good. It might be good. I don't know yet. We'll see. Anyhow, I'm going. Will there be powdered wigs? No. Oh, good. The code's worked. This is World, what's on my shirt? World's Gym. You're welcome. You're welcome. So we're going to be hanging out in some desert times. I'm really excited for it. Some good old AD&D 1E. You all have helped me decide because I was going back and forth. No Dungeoneer and Wilderness Survival Guide. We're doing that cut off. So we're sticking to that sort of core AD&D 1E that kind of ends with Unearthed Arcana. No comeliness, though. And, I remember I was wanting to tell you all something. Because it's been on the back of my mind and I forgot it, but I'm going to remind you. I'm going to tell you before we go. This is it. Are you ready? So, I was talking about AD&D 1E with some friends of mine at the board game retreat who've never played AD&D at all. They've only played 5th edition. And so I was like, there are class race restrictions. You can't be any class you want based on what race you are. dwarves can't be clerics, for example. And they're like, what? That's wild. And I was like, it is wild. And a friend of mine was like, oh, so could I be a bard barbarian? I was like, you cannot. Because yeah, you can't. If you could like, well, she wanted to be an elven bard barbarian. And I was like, you can't be an elven bard barbarian because only humans can be barbarians. So humans can't multi-class. They can dual class, right? But they can't. So if you were a human, you could be but being a bard also, you can't be a bard before 10th level. So you have to do like 5 levels of fighter, 5 levels of thief minimum, and then do a level of druid, and then you become a bard. So I guess you could be a barbarian first, and then multi-class, and then dual class into all the rest of them. But again, right? It's like, yeah. So they're like, oh, and then I started, and I was like, also, we have to remember that barbarians are not barbarians as you know them in 5th edition. And she said, well, what do you mean? So I pulled out my PDF, and I started it. A lot of it was hard because they just wanted to be hard. It was their way of doing balance. I think it was their way of doing balance and also verisimilitude. I think they thought it would be weird if there were 1,000 paladins, right? Like, I think they wanted there to be a sense of like, there are a lot of fighters. There were fewer this, fewer that, fewer that. But if you let everybody take everything, then you're going to get something that doesn't really make sense for the world, I guess, is what they would think. Pendragon makes everyone being a paladin work, but that's a different game, right? Pendragon is a game of paladins. So that's like a different vibe, I guess. Yeah, but it's also part of power creep that happens with the later editions. Anyhow, that's also about world building and magic shops. But anyhow, so I was reading her Barbarian, right? So I was like, well, 1E barbarians don't have rage. And she's like, oh, well then what do they do? And I was like, and I was going through it. It's like, well, they're basically wilderness rogues is what they are, because they're the other class that has skills. So they're wilderness rogues. And she was like, oh, so interesting. But here's the thing about them who destroy magic items. They can't be in a party with magic users until higher levels. Like they just cannot be in the same party. It definitely came out of tabletop miniature games, where each army had limitations based on real world army limitations. Absolutely. Right. It's also the same way where like there is psionics in this game, but most likely you're not going to have it. You know what I mean? Like these things are there. They're Conan. That's what 1E barbarians are. Yep, they are. But the thing is, I was like, oh man, the only way you heard that Gygax hated magic users. Oh, interesting. The only way that you could have a barbarian in a party. This is why you need a session 0. This is why you need a session 0, actually, because a first level barbarian cannot be in the same party. Cannot be in the same party with either a cleric or a magic user. So can't. But druids are not clerics and illusionists are not magic users. They're different classes. So if somebody wanted to be a barbarian, there would need to be a conversation that happened around the table, right? Because some classes restrict who they can be in a party with. So, yeah, right? I mean, that's the thing. And I think this is where you actually really do need a session 0, because I don't think it's until 2nd level that a barbarian can be in a party with clerics even. So if somebody wanted to be a barbarian, and Alignment was definitely a party splitter, it absolutely was. It was. So if somebody wanted to be a barbarian in this campaign, everyone would have to agree no magic users, no clerics, until that barbarian hit 2nd level. Then somebody could come in with a cleric, or I think it's like 4th or 5th for magic users. But crouching barbarian, hidden cleric. Yep. So, right. That's just one of those things that you do need to have a session 0. And also, interestingly enough, I think, and this is actually, I think, one of the things that's really interesting, I'm going to leave, about AD&D 1E and the experience of creating a character for it. It is very different from 5E. People nowadays have character concepts first before they get to the table. They're like, I want to play a tiefling, half tiefling, half Aasimar warlock paladin. right? Like they come up with these things they want to do before they get to the table. It didn't used to be called Session Zero, it just to be called character creation, yeah. No assassin allowed if someone's a paladin, for example. If they're just certain things, just can't be in the same party together. So, you know, that's why I like Call of Cthulhu with roll your stats in order. You play with the dice tell you to play. I'm getting where you're thinking. Did you even talk about the split of D&D and AD&D, which definitely had different rules than the little black book version? Yeah. And one of the reasons Copper Glitch, why I wanted to do this is because the OSR, the old school Renaissance or revival, who's really into D&D as it was back in the day, but most of them were not even born for it, they really only talk about, in the very early OSR did talk about AD&D 1E, that was Osric, but generally speaking, all these OSR people are basically obsessed with the basic and expert sets, and that's it. That's it. Not anything came after, just those two sets. And the basic set was clearly... So it's weird. Like, they're like, we want to do it how it was. I was like, AD&D was also how it was, but they really avoid AD&D. They also tend to avoid CMI. It's just basic expert. And then they sort of say that was like how all of D&D was, which it wasn't. Also, AD&D was right there too. Like, so I really wanted to, one of the reasons why I wanted to do, because here's the thing, I actually really like some of the, like the cool rules that happens in the upper parts of the boxes once Metzner sort of expanding it out. But because of the OSR being so obsessed with BX as like the D&D or whatever, I was like, I'm going to do AD&D 1E for this summer campaign. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Yep. Expert D&D. Start with Holmes. Glad of it. Then directed to AD&D. No one remembers Blackmore. Oh, I remember Blackmore. I actually think I have a PDF of it. Is what I think I have. Yeah, so I was... Oh, right. So you have to... There are conversations you have to have if you want to have certain classes in the same party, or else it won't work. Right. So a lot of players now, because of the way that things have developed, which is sort of power gamery, I guess, is the best way to put it, right? It's a very different thing where, like, you can be whatever you want with no restrictions at all for any reason. And that's just kind of not how it was, right, in AD&D 1E, because you don't know what character you're going to make because you don't know what you're going to roll. And you just may not qualify to be a paladin. You might want to be a paladin, but you may not qualify. That's it, right? After I got Holmes and AD&D, I got a copy of the original white box set, probably a reprint, and couldn't make heads or tail of it. Actually, Copper Glitch, I think I have Blackmore in PDF. And Arneson. I was much more Arnesonian than I was Gygaxian, but whatever. I moved on to Call of Cthulhu. So we're going to be using one of the methods of character creation recommended in the DMG, which will be 4d6 drop the lowest, place them where you want, which is sort of similar to how they do in nowadays. But the thing is, you had to roll first, right? I wish I'd moved early to Call of Cthulhu Travel. I did. Like, I stopped playing D&D like in 86, 87. 87? 86, 87. And then I moved over to Call of Cthulhu and GURPS because, for reasons. It's because the players of D&D at the time were kind of awful. They were really bad. It was like, yeah, they were not great. There were some really good players, like Ezra, who you'll meet, but there were some terrible people who were just awful. And I was like, I can't play with you people. And then I found Call of Cthulhu, and that was great. I ran some Star Trek, but not enough. Yeah, I did a bunch of stuff, actually. Anyway, so the difference is that rather than being like, I want to be this whole big thing, you can't do that. What you roll your stats, you see what they look like, you pick your race, and then after you pick your race, it will limit what classes you can be, as will your stats. And then from there, you make your character, and you're like, well, somebody needs to play a cleric. Who's going to do that? Okay, or a druid, or a ranger, whatever you got. And you make your character. You don't play. Yeah, it's a different way of thinking about your character, right? You might get a ranger in this group, but you're unlikely to get a paladin. Even with 46 drop the lowest, rolling 17 is rare, and they have so many stats they've got to be high. Max says, "Go, get up here." Throws rush. You're right. Okay, I'm leaving. So we're doing 46 drop the lowest, place where you want. It's one of the recommendations in the Dungeon Masters in the DMG, and I figure if I give them some good stats to begin with, that might help balance out the fact they might only have one hit point. Backup characters, maybe we'll see how long it takes. The character creation takes. So our first Rangers, 1E Rangers don't get cleric spells, and they don't get. It's true, they don't get spells until way later. You're right. This is true. So it would have to, yeah. So our first session, which is going to be in 2 weeks, is going to be character creation. We're just going to sit there and do our session 0 together. We're going to do our character creation, talk about it. So in 2 weeks, we get our session 0, and how many characters they make will depend on how quickly the character creation goes. But we're gonna introduce the world to everybody. We'll talk about it. You're gonna see us do a partial session 0 together, and we'll make characters. I need to do some work on the character sheet and roll 20 first, and then the week after we will begin. I always like that you could reconsider what class you want it to be later, with the penalties, of course. And I think there's something, I have to say, there's been a longest part of character creation in AD&D always seemed like purchasing equipment. Although when you start off, you don't have that much gold, so I guess there's limited supplies. Fighter all the way. Fighters, fighters are decent. Sorry, I didn't get it. Is this for the Friday night camp? This is for the Friday night campaign. So AD&D is going to be our Friday night campaign for the summer, and we'll start in 2 weeks. So next Friday is going to be either more Rune, or it will be our State of the Foxhole stream for 2025, depending on how much work I get done between here and then. And then the Friday after is going to be our session 0, where we create characters for the AD&D summer Friday night campaign. My favorite thing about 1E is dual classing Ranger into Magic User, so you can have a Magic User wearing plate armor. The magical backpack for X gold coins. Yeah. And you, okay, I'm going. AD&D 1E didn't have Thaco. Muleselch, that's the thing. There was no Thaco in AD&D 1E. It started creeping in some of the final books for monsters. But there's no, yeah, Thaco. There is Thaco. Max, Thaco's mentioned in AD&D 1E in the very final books, right as it's transitioning to second, but I think mostly just for monsters. But they have charts. Yeah. First edition, old school first edition, hardcore. But I will let them do 46 drop the lowest because it is in the DMG. And it is more reasonable than some of the other versions. And yeah. Okay, I'm leaving. That's it. I'm leaving. I'm going to go and get food. I'm going. Oh, but we're going to raid. If Negs is still up, we're going to raid Negs. Let's see. We're going to just check to see who's raiding. Who's up? Vorpal Sword, Pod by Night, Nicotine, Distracted Elf, Brad. Oh, we could raid Brad. Because I don't know if Negs is still up right now. And I do adore Brad. Let's raid Brad. Woto. Let's do that. Let's raid Brad. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna raid Brad. So give Brad some love when we raid him, and we will catch you all. I will catch you on the flip side. Thank you for hanging out with me and talking about AD&D, because it's coming. It's coming in 2 weeks. I'm so excited. So don't forget our raid command. And this is our raid command. Boop. And no, that's not it. Sorry. That was winner. Sorry. My mind was on winning. Here we go. This is our raid command. And then let's give Brad some love. And thank you, everybody. I will see you. We probably have Lords of Gossamer and Shadow tomorrow night at 8 p.m., but 2 people are sick, so if not, then we will not. Tuesday at 8 p.m. over at Praxagor the Smorfori's channel is the Session 0 for Fate of Taormina, Prax's medieval Sicily campaign set during the Caliphate. And then Thursday for The Long Dark here at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then Friday will be either State of the Foxhole or Rune. But that's what we're going to find out. And let's raid, though. Thank you for being here. And I'm so glad it was good to see you all. Bye, everybody.